For millennia, a sacred knowledge has been carefully preserved within the oldest manuscripts of humanity. Solomon, the richest and wisest king in history, did not accumulate his fortune through military conquests or privileged inheritance. He mastered something far more powerful, the exact frequency the universe uses to manifest unlimited abundance. Throughout these pages, you will be guided through a profound process of conscious reprogramming. You will discover why some people seem to attract money effortlessly, while others struggle their entire lives. You will understand the invisible energetic blockages that repel prosperity, and more importantly, how to dissolve them permanently. The frequency of Solomon is not vague mysticism. It is a precise science of energetic alignment that transforms your relationship with abundance on a cellular, emotional, and spiritual level. Prepare to access the same power that built temples, created empires, and manifested riches that defied all logic of their time. Your financial transformation begins now, not through external formulas, but through the awakening of the frequency of prosperity that already exists within you, waiting only to be activated. Chapter 1. The Forgotten Code of Prosperity. There's a secret that has been hidden in plain sight for over 3,000 years. It's not locked away in some forbidden vault or guarded by secret society. It's been sitting right there, in one of the most widely read books in human history, waiting for someone to ask the right question. The question isn't, how did Solomon become rich? The question is, what did Solomon know that we forgot? History remembers King Solomon as the wisest and wealthiest man who ever lived. His fortune was so vast that silver was considered worthless in Jerusalem during his reign. Gold flowed into his kingdom like water, not through wars or conquest, but through something far more powerful, something that most people have completely misunderstood. And here's what nobody tells you. Solomon didn't chase wealth. He didn't strategize his way to riches. He didn't even work particularly hard for his fortune. He simply understood a fundamental law of the universe that modern civilization has systematically erased from collective memory. You've been taught that wealth comes from hard work, lucky breaks, good connections, or being born into the right family. You've been conditioned to believe that money is scarce, that you have to fight for your piece of the pie, that financial abundance is reserved for a select few who somehow got all the advantages. But what if everything you've been taught about wealth is precisely backwards? What if the struggle itself is what keeps abundance away from you? Solomon knew something that quantum physicists are only now beginning to prove in laboratories. Everything in this universe is energy vibrating at specific frequencies. Your thoughts are energy. Your emotions are energy. Money is energy. And just like a radio can only pick up stations when it's tuned to the exact frequency of the broadcast, you can only receive abundance when your entire being is vibrating at the frequency of prosperity. This isn't metaphor or spiritual poetry. This is physics. This is how reality actually works. The ancient texts tell us that when Solomon became king, he was visited in a dream and asked what he desired most. He didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for power or victory over his enemy. He asked for wisdom. And here's the part that changes everything. The moment he asked for wisdom instead of riches, riches came flooding into his life in amounts that staggered the known world. Why? Because wisdom is the understanding of how universal laws operate. And the first universal law is this: you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Solomon understood that wealth isn't something outside of you that you need to chase down and capture. Wealth is a frequency that already exists in the quantum field, waiting to be accessed by anyone vibrating at the matching resonance. When you become the frequency of abundance, Abundance has no choice but to manifest in your physical reality. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's the basic physics of how consciousness interacts with the field of infinite possibility. But here's where the story gets interesting, and where the real secret emerges. After Solomon received his wisdom, he didn't just sit back and wait for gold to appear. He did something very specific. He built a temple. Not just any temple, but a structure designed with precise mathematical proportions, specific materials, and exact measurements that created a harmonic resonance chamber. Modern acousticians who have studied the descriptions of Solomon's temple have discovered something remarkable. The architecture was designed to amplify specific sound frequencies, particularly around 528 Hz, a frequency that ancient traditions called the frequency of miracles, and modern science has identified as the exact vibration that repairs DNA and creates harmony in biological systems. Solomon wasn't building a temple for worship in the way we understand it today. He was constructing a frequency generator, a consciousness amplification device that maintained his entire being in a state of harmonic resonance with universal abundance. Every time he entered that sacred space, his cellular structure, his neural pathways, his electromagnetic field would synchronize with the frequency of infinite prosperity. He didn't need to think about being rich. He didn't need to visualize or affirm. His very biology became a magnet for wealth. Now, before you think this is ancient history with no relevance to your modern life, let me share something that will shift your entire perspective. In 2012, a team of neuroscientists discovered that the human brain doesn't distinguish between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. When you imagine yourself in a state of abundant wealth, with enough sensory detail and emotional intensity, your brain creates the exact same neural pathways it would create if you were actually living that reality. Your subconscious mind, which controls 95% of your behavior and attracts 95% of your results, accepts the imagined experience as real and begins to automatically guide you toward circumstances that match that internal state. Solomon understood this 3 millennia before brain scanning technology could prove it. He knew that the key to unlimited wealth wasn't in the external world of transactions and accumulation. The key was in becoming, at the deepest level of his being, a person who naturally, effortlessly, automatically lived in abundance. He reprogrammed his consciousness so completely that poverty became literally impossible for him. His energy field rejected scarcity the way water rejects oil. They cannot mix. They cannot coexist. But here's what happened after Solomon died. The knowledge didn't disappear immediately. It was passed down through carefully guarded lineages, protected by those who understood its power. But over centuries, something deliberate occurred. The practical applications were separated from the spiritual principles. The science was divorced from the mysticism. What remained in public consciousness was either dry religious ritual without power, or vague spiritual concepts without practical application. The complete system, the integration of consciousness technology that Solomon mastered, was fractured into pieces so small that nobody could reassemble the whole picture. Why would this happen? Think about it. If everyone understood that wealth is a frequency anyone can access, that abundance is an internal state rather than an external achievement, the entire economic system based on scarcity, competition, and control would collapse overnight. The power structures that depend on masses of people believing they're limited, powerless, and dependent would dissolve like morning mist. So the knowledge was obscured, not destroyed, hidden in plain sight, encoded in symbols and stories that most people read without understanding the deeper technology beneath the surface narrative. You've been living your entire life in a world that programs scarcity into your consciousness from birth. You're taught that money doesn't grow on trees, that you can't have everything you want, that life is hard, and you better get used to struggle. By the time you're 7 years old, your subconscious mind has been imprinted with thousands of limiting beliefs about money that operate like invisible software, running programs of lack and limitation without your conscious awareness. Every time you try to create wealth with your conscious mind while your subconscious is broadcasting the frequency of poverty, it's like trying to drive forward with the emergency brake engaged. You wonder why you're not moving, never realizing there's a hidden force working against. Solomon's first act of wisdom was to clear his consciousness of these inherited programs of limitation before he could tune into the frequency of unlimited abundance. He had to identify and dissolve the static interference created by false beliefs about scarcity. He had to reprogram his subconscious mind with a new operating system, one based on the truth of infinite universal supply, rather than the illusion of limited resources. This is the work that nobody wants to talk about, because it requires brutal honesty about the stories you've been telling yourself, about why you can't have what you want. Let me be direct with you. Right now, in this moment, there are people with less education than you who are wealthy. There are people with fewer advantages than you who are living in abundance. There are people who started with more obstacles than you who have overcome every limitation and created prosperity beyond measure. The difference isn't luck. The difference isn't talent. The difference isn't even opportunity. The difference is frequency. They're vibrating at the resonance of wealth, and the universe is responding to that vibration by orchestrating circumstances, connections, and resources that match their energetic signature. You've probably experienced moments in your life when everything seemed to flow effortlessly. Opportunities appeared out of nowhere. The right people showed up at the right time. Money came from unexpected sources. You felt like you were riding a wave of grace where everything you touched turned to gold. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't luck. That was you, briefly, accidentally tuning into Solomon's frequency. You stumbled into the resonance of abundance, and for that window of time, your reality reflected your elevated state. But because you didn't understand the mechanism, you couldn't sustain it. You thought it was external circumstances changing, not recognizing that it was your internal frequency that shifted first, and reality rearranged itself to match. This is the core teaching that has been kept from you. You are not at the mercy of external conditions. External conditions are at the mercy of your internal frequency. When you change your vibration, when you shift your consciousness, when you reprogram your subconscious beliefs, the physical world has no choice but to reorganize itself into new patterns that correspond with your new energetic state. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. This is quantum mechanics applied to the creation of your personal reality. Solomon's temple wasn't made of stone and gold because those materials were holy. Those materials were chosen because they conduct and amplify specific electromagnetic frequencies. His rituals weren't religious performances for an external deity. They were consciousness practices designed to entrain his brain waves, his heart coherence, and his nervous system into the exact state that generates the electromagnetic signature of abundance. Everything he did was intentional, precise, and based on a sophisticated understanding of how consciousness creates reality. Modern neuroscience has now discovered what Solomon knew instinctively. Your brain is not just receiving information about reality, it's actively constructing reality. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart is 5,000 times stronger than the field generated by your brain, and it extends several feet beyond your physical body, interacting with the quantum field of infinite possibility. When your heart and brain are in coherent resonance, when your thoughts and emotions are aligned in the same frequency, you become a powerful generator of creative force that literally pulls circumstances, people, and resources toward you like a magnet. But here's what stops most people from accessing this power. They're trying to think their way to wealth while feeling poverty. They're affirming abundance while their emotional body is saturated in fear and lack. They're visualizing success while their nervous system is locked in survival mode. Solomon understood that wealth isn't created by thoughts alone. Wealth is created by thoughts married to elevated emotions, supported by a nervous system that feels safe, energized, and open to receive. It's the complete alignment of your entire being in one coherent frequency that opens the floodgates of manifestation. Think about the last time you really wanted something and got desperate about it. The more you needed it, the more it seemed to move away from you. That's because desperation is the frequency of lack, and lack attracts more lack. Now think about something good that came into your life when you weren't even looking for it, when you were relaxed and happy and simply enjoying your life. That's because contentment and joy are frequencies of abundance, and abundance attracts more abundance. Solomon wasn't desperate for wealth because he knew at the deepest level that he was already connected to infinite supply. His state of being was the state of having, long before the physical manifestation appeared. This is the forgotten code. You must become it before you can have it. You must embody the frequency of wealth before wealth can manifest in your physical reality. You must think like a wealthy person, feel like a wealthy person, act like a wealthy person, and most importantly, believe like a wealthy person believes, before the universe can deliver the material evidence of that internal state. Most people have it backwards. They think they'll feel abundant after they get the money, but that's not how the law works. You must generate the feeling first, sustain that frequency consistently, and then watch as reality rearranges itself to match your vibration. Solomon's secret wasn't complicated, but it was complete. It was a total system of consciousness transformation that integrated every level of his being, his thoughts, his emotions, his beliefs, his environment, his daily practices, and his understanding of universal laws. He didn't just want to be rich. He became the embodiment of wealth itself. And when you become something at that level of totality, the universe has no option but to reflect that truth back to you in physical form. The knowledge you're about to receive in the following chapters isn't theory or philosophy. It's a precise technology for transforming your consciousness from the frequency of limitation to the frequency of unlimited abundance. It's the same knowledge that created Solomon's legendary wealth, now explained through the language of modern science, so your rational mind can accept what your soul already knows is true. You're about to learn how to build your own temple, not with stone and gold, but with consciousness and energy. You're about to discover how to tune your entire being to the frequency that doesn't just attract wealth, but becomes a permanent broadcast signal that wealth cannot resist. Everything in your life is about to change, not because external circumstances will magically shift, but because you're finally going to understand and apply the fundamental law that governs all manifestation. Change your frequency. Change your reality. This is Solomon's gift to you, preserved through millennia, waiting for this exact moment when you are ready to receive it. The question isn't whether this works. The question is, are you willing to become someone new? Because that's what's required. Not improvement of who you are, but transformation into who you're meant to be. A being of abundance, a channel of prosperity, a frequency that matches the unlimited wealth of the universe itself. Chapter 2. The Quantum Physics of Wealth. Everything you've been taught about how reality works is incomplete. Not wrong, necessarily, but missing the most important piece of the puzzle. You've been told that the world is solid, material, and fixed, that you're separate from everything around you, that success requires pushing against resistance, fighting for your share, and hoping that circumstances align in your favor. But what if I told you that at the deepest level of reality, none of that is true? Welcome to the quantum field, the invisible foundation of everything you see, touch, and experience. This is where Solomon operated from. This is where wealth is actually created, long before it appears in your bank account. And here's the revelation that changes everything. At the quantum level, everything is energy. Your body is energy. Your thoughts are energy. Money is energy. The chair you're sitting in, the device you're reading this on, the air you're breathing. It's all energy vibrating at different frequencies. And the frequency you're vibrating at right now is determining exactly what you're attracting into your life. Let me break this down in a way that your logical mind can grasp, because once you truly understand this, you'll never see reality the same way again. Quantum physicists have discovered that at the subatomic level, particles don't exist as solid objects until they're observed. Before observation, they exist as waves of probability, infinite potential, waiting to collapse into physical form. The act of observation, of focused consciousness, is what transforms potential into reality. Your consciousness isn't just witnessing reality. Your consciousness is actively creating it, moment by moment, through the frequency of your attention, belief, and emotion. This isn't mysticism. This is what happens in laboratories every single day. The famous double-slit experiment proved beyond any doubt that the observer affects the observed. When scientists watch particles, they behave like solid matter. When no one's watching, they behave like waves of pure possibility. The implications are staggering. Reality is far more flexible, far more responsive to consciousness than you've been led to believe. And if consciousness can affect particles, it can affect everything made of particles, which means everything in your physical world. Solomon understood this principle without modern instruments or scientific terminology. He knew that the invisible world of energy and frequency precedes and determines the visible world of form and matter. He knew that to change his physical circumstances, he first had to change his energetic state. This is why he spent so much time in meditation, prayer, and ritual. Not because he was religious in the way we think of religion today, but because he was deliberately engineering his consciousness to vibrate at specific frequencies that would magnetize wealth into his reality. Think of the universe as an infinite ocean of energy, a quantum field containing every possible reality simultaneously. Within this field exists the reality where you're struggling financially, and also the reality where you're abundantly wealthy. Both exist as potential until your consciousness selects one through the frequency you're broadcasting. Your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions act like a radio dial, tuning you into specific channels of reality. Right now, you're tuned into whatever channel matches your dominant vibration. Change the dial, change the channel, change your frequency, change your reality. Here's what makes this so practical and powerful. You don't need to understand all the complex mathematics of quantum mechanics to use this knowledge. You just need to grasp the fundamental principle that everything is energy, and energy responds to energy. When you think a thought, You create an electromagnetic signal. When you feel an emotion, you generate a magnetic field. When you hold a belief, you establish a consistent vibration. And the universe, which is nothing but energy responding to energy, must bring you circumstances, people, and resources that match the frequency you're consistently broadcasting. Let me give you a real example of how this works. Sarah was a talented graphic designer who couldn't seem to break through to the income level she desired. She worked hard, had great skills, but every time she got close to a breakthrough, something would fall apart. When we looked at her energetic state, the problem was obvious. Every morning she would check her bank account with a feeling of anxiety. Throughout the day she would worry about bills. At night, she would fall asleep, thinking about what she couldn't afford. Her dominant frequency was lack, worry, and limitation, and the universe, responding to that frequency like a perfect mirror, kept delivering experiences that matched: clients who couldn't pay, unexpected expenses, opportunities that disappeared at the last moment. The shift happened when Sarah learned to generate the frequency of abundance before the physical evidence appeared. Instead of waiting to feel wealthy after the money came, she started creating the emotional and mental state of wealth first. She would spend 10 minutes every morning imagining her bank account full, feeling the relief and joy of financial freedom, thinking thoughts that someone with abundant wealth would think. At first, her logical mind screamed that she was lying to herself, that this was fake. But she understood something crucial. Her subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. As far as her nervous system was concerned, she was actually experiencing wealth. Within 3 weeks, things started shifting. A former client reached out with a project worth more than she usually made in 3 months. A company she'd approached a year earlier suddenly had budget approval and wanted to work with her. Her landlord offered her a rent reduction because he appreciated her as a tenant. None of these things required her to work harder or develop new skills. They happened because she changed her frequency, and reality reorganized itself around her new vibration. This is the quantum field responding to consciousness. This is how the invisible creates the visible. Now let's go deeper into the science of how your personal electromagnetic field interacts with the quantum field of infinite possibility. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, 5,000 times more powerful than your brain. This field extends 3 to 6 feet beyond your physical body, and it's constantly transmitting information about your emotional state into the space around you. When you feel fear, scarcity, or unworthiness, your heart broadcasts that frequency outward, and it affects how people respond to you, what opportunities you notice, and what circumstances materialize in your life. Solomon knew about heart coherence thousands of years before we had the technology to measure it. He understood that the heart isn't just a pump. It's an intelligence center that communicates with the quantum field. When your heart is in a state of coherence, when you're feeling elevated emotions like gratitude, love, joy, or abundance, your electromagnetic field becomes organized and powerful. In this state, you become a magnet for synchronicities, opportunities, and manifestations that seem miraculous to people who don't understand the mechanism. The Institute of Heart Math has measured this phenomenon extensively. They've found that when people generate feelings of appreciation or care, their heart rhythms become highly ordered and coherent, creating a measurably stronger electromagnetic field. In this coherent state, the heart and brain synchronize, producing optimal conditions for peak performance, intuitive insight, and manifestation. You're not just feeling good. You're creating a broadcast signal that the quantum field must respond to with matching circumstances. This is why affirmations alone don't work for most people. They're saying words with their mouth, while their heart is broadcasting the opposite frequency. They're affirming, "I am wealthy," while feeling poor. They're declaring, "Money flows to me easily," while their nervous system is in fight-or-flight mode, which is the biological state of scarcity and survival. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your frequency. And your frequency is determined by the coherence between what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're believing at the subconscious level. Solomon's wealth wasn't built on positive thinking. It was built on frequency alignment. Every aspect of his life was designed to maintain him in the specific energetic state that corresponds with unlimited abundance. His morning rituals weren't about asking for blessing. They were about tuning his consciousness to prosperity frequency. His temple wasn't a building for worship. It was an environment engineered to amplify and sustain elevated states of consciousness. His wisdom wasn't intellectual knowledge. It was embodied understanding of how to maintain coherence between his thoughts, emotions, and the quantum field. Let me explain what happens at the quantum level when you're in true alignment. Your brain is constantly firing neurons, creating patterns of electrical activity. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, those neurons fire together and wire together, creating neural pathways. These pathways become your automatic programs, running subconsciously and creating your default reality. If your neural pathways are wired for scarcity, you'll automatically perceive, interpret, and respond to life from that perspective, regardless of what's actually available to you. Your brain will literally filter out opportunities that don't match your programmed pattern. But here's where it gets exciting. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, means you can create new neural pathways at any age, any time. When you consistently think new thoughts, feel new emotions, and imagine new realities with enough intensity and repetition, you physically change your brain structure. You create new circuits that become your new automatic program. And when your automatic programs run on abundance frequency instead of scarcity frequency, everything in your external reality must shift to match. This is the neuroscience behind what Solomon practiced. He wasn't hoping for wealth or wishing for prosperity. He was systematically rewiring his nervous system to operate from the state of already having unlimited abundance. His consciousness wasn't in the future, hoping things would get better. His consciousness was in the eternal now, experiencing the feeling of wealth as a present reality. And because the quantum field exists in the eternal now, it responded immediately to his present moment frequency, collapsing waves of potential into physical manifestations that matched his energetic state. There's a crucial distinction I need you to understand. Wanting money keeps you in the vibration of not having money. The moment you want something, you're affirming its absence. Solomon never wanted wealth because wanting creates separation between you and the thing you desire. Instead, he embodied the state of being that naturally includes wealth. He didn't want abundance. He was abundance. He didn't pursue prosperity. He radiated prosperity. This is the quantum difference between chasing and magnetizing. When you chase something, you're operating from lack. You're sending out the frequency of, "I don't have this," and the universe must bring you more experiences of not having it. But when you become the vibrational match to what you desire, when you embody the frequency of already having it, you're not chasing anything. You're a magnet, and the things that match your frequency are drawn to you through the invisible organizing intelligence of the quantum field. You don't make it happen. You allow it to happen by maintaining the right frequency. Let me share another case that illustrates this perfectly. Marcus was a real estate agent who studied every sales technique, worked 12-hour days, and couldn't understand why others with half his effort were making twice his income. He was stuck at a plateau that felt like a glass ceiling. The breakthrough came when he stopped trying to make sales happen and started becoming the frequency of abundance. Instead of desperately needing each commission to pay bills, which broadcasted desperation to potential clients, he practiced entering every interaction from a state of already being financially free. He would sit in his car before client meetings and spend 5 minutes generating the feeling of having already made his annual income goal. He would breathe into his heart center and cultivate genuine appreciation for his life exactly as it was. He stopped making decisions from fear about money and started making decisions from excitement about possibility. His external actions didn't change much, but his internal frequency transformed completely. Within 2 months, his income had tripled, not because he worked harder, but because he stopped repelling abundance with the frequency of desperation and started attracting it with the frequency of confidence and sufficiency. The quantum field doesn't judge your desires as good or bad, worthy or unworthy. It simply responds to the frequency you're broadcasting. If you're vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, it delivers scarcity. If you're vibrating at the frequency of abundance, it delivers abundance. It's completely neutral, perfectly responsive, and absolutely precise. This is the great equalizer. It means that regardless of where you're starting from, regardless of your past, your background, or your current circumstances, you have complete control over the one thing that matters most: your frequency. Solomon's legendary wisdom was fundamentally the understanding of this quantum principle. When he said, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he," he wasn't being poetic. He was describing the exact mechanism of how consciousness creates reality. Your heart, the generator of your strongest electromagnetic field, broadcasts whatever frequency is dominant in your emotional body. That frequency interacts with the quantum field of infinite potential, selecting from all possible realities the ones that match your vibration. You literally think and feel your reality into existence, moment by moment, through the power of your attention, belief, and emotional state. Now here's where most people get stuck, and it's critical that you understand this. Changing your frequency isn't about pretending you're not where you are. It's not about denying your current reality or engaging in toxic positivity. It's about recognizing that your current reality is the result of your past frequency, not your future potential. The circumstances you're experiencing right now were set in motion by the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs you were broadcasting weeks or months ago. They're old news. They're the printout of yesterday's frequency. The power is in this moment, right now. In this moment, you can choose a new frequency. In this moment, you can think thoughts that match wealth rather than poverty. In this moment, you can generate emotions of abundance rather than lack. In this moment, you can believe in unlimited possibility rather than limitation. And when you sustain that new frequency consistently, the quantum field has no choice but to deliver new circumstances that match. The lag time between frequency shift and manifestation varies, but the principle is absolute. Change your vibration, change your reality. Solomon proved this principle by building one of the wealthiest kingdoms in history without military conquest or oppression. He simply maintained such a powerful, consistent frequency of prosperity that the quantum field organized gold, silver, precious materials, and international trade into his sphere of influence. Other kings noticed it. The Queen of Sheba traveled a great distance just to understand what he was doing differently. What she found wasn't better strategy or superior resources. What she found was a man who had mastered the art of frequency alignment, who had learned to consciously work with quantum principles that most people stumble through unconsciously. You have the same quantum field available to you that Solomon had. You have the same laws of physics operating in your life. The only difference is awareness and application. He knew he was a vibrational being in a responsive universe. He knew that consciousness precedes form. He knew that by shifting his internal frequency, he could influence external outcomes. And most importantly, he practiced this knowledge consistently until it became his natural way of being. This is the invitation before you now, not to learn something intellectually, but to become something experientially, to shift from being a person who wants wealth to being a person who embodies wealth at the frequency level, to stop trying to manipulate the physical world and start mastering the energetic realm that creates the physical world, to understand that you're not a powerless human hoping for good luck. You're a powerful consciousness using quantum principles to design your reality. The wealth you desire already exists in the quantum field as potential. It's not something you need to create from nothing. It's something you need to tune into, like a radio station broadcasting music that you can't hear until you dial to the right frequency. Abundance is always transmitting, always available, waiting for you to match its vibration. Solomon knew the exact frequency. He lived in that frequency. He became that frequency. And that's why wealth had no choice but to manifest in his life, in amounts that defied all conventional logic. In the next chapter, you're going to discover the specific blocks that are preventing you from tuning into this frequency. Because here's the truth. It's not that you don't know how to be abundant. It's that you've been programmed with interference patterns that distort your natural frequency. You've been conditioned with beliefs, fears, and patterns that create static on the line between you and unlimited prosperity. Once you identify and clear these blocks, tuning into Solomon's frequency becomes natural, effortless, and automatic. The wealth you've been seeking is about to start seeking you. Chapter 3. The invisible blocks that destroy your fortune. Let me tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. You are not broke because of the economy, your education, your job, or your circumstances. You are experiencing financial limitation because there are invisible programs running in your subconscious mind that are actively repelling wealth from your life. These programs are so deeply embedded, so automatic, that you don't even notice them operating. They're like viruses in your mental software, corrupting every attempt you make to create abundance. The hardest truth you'll ever face is this. You are getting exactly what you're unconsciously programmed to get, not what you consciously want, but what your subconscious believes you deserve, expect, and can handle. Your conscious mind might desire millions, but if your subconscious is programmed with unworthiness, fear, or scarcity, it will sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. It will make you overlook the opening, doubt the possibility, or fumble the execution, and you'll blame bad luck, never realizing that you're running interference patterns against your own success. Solomon understood something that modern psychology has only recently confirmed. By the time you're 7 years old, your subconscious mind has been programmed with thousands of beliefs about money, success, and worthiness. You absorbed these beliefs from your parents, your culture, your early experiences, and they now operate as invisible filters determining what you can see, what you believe is possible, and what actions you automatically take or avoid. These programs run 95% of your life, which means that 95% of your results are being determined by programming you didn't consciously choose and probably aren't even aware of. Think about that for a moment. You're working hard with your conscious mind, which controls only 5% of your outcome, while your subconscious mind, controlling 95%, is running programs of limitation, fear, and scarcity. It's like trying to drive forward with one foot on the gas and the other foot pressing the brake. You wonder why you're not moving, never realizing there's a hidden force working against you with 20 times more power than your conscious effort. Let me walk you through the most common and destructive blocks that are operating in your subconscious right now. As I describe each one, pay attention to any resistance, discomfort, or recognition you feel. That emotional response is your indicator that you've hit a program that's been running your financial reality without your permission. The first block is what I call the unworthiness virus. This is the deepest and most damaging program because it operates at the level of identity. Somewhere in your early years, you received messages that you weren't good enough, smart enough, or deserving enough. Maybe your parents struggled financially, and you absorbed the belief that people like us don't have money. Maybe you were shamed for wanting things or told that desiring wealth was greedy or selfish. Maybe you internalized the idea that you have to work extremely hard to deserve even a little bit of success. These experiences created a core belief. I am not worthy of abundance. Here's how this plays out in your adult life. You get an opportunity for a higher-paying job, but you don't apply because some part of you doesn't believe you're qualified. You meet someone who could open doors for you, but you don't follow up because you feel like you'd be bothering them. You have an idea that could make you wealthy, but you never act on it because deep down, you don't believe someone like you gets to have that kind of success. The unworthiness virus doesn't feel like a belief, it feels like reality. It feels like you're just being realistic about your limitations. But it's not reality, it's programming. Jennifer was a therapist with a thriving practice who couldn't break through the six-figure income barrier no matter what she tried. On the surface, she wanted more wealth. But when we examined her subconscious programming, we found a belief she'd carried since childhood. Having more than I need while others are suffering is selfish. Her father had been a minister who preached about the virtue of poverty and the evil of wealth. She had internalized the message that good people stay humble and struggle financially. Every time her income started to rise, she would unconsciously create situations that brought it back down, canceling sessions, undercharging clients, or creating unexpected expenses. Her subconscious was protecting her from violating the core belief that wealth equals selfishness. The second major block is the safety program. Your subconscious mind's primary job is to keep you alive, and it defines safety as familiarity. Whatever you experienced in childhood becomes your baseline of normal, and your nervous system works tirelessly to maintain that familiar state, even if that state is struggle and limitation. If you grew up in a household where money was scarce, your nervous system coded financial stress as normal. As an adult, when you start to experience more abundance, your nervous system interprets it as dangerous, unfamiliar territory. It triggers anxiety, self-sabotage, or crisis to bring you back to the familiar baseline of limitation. This is why lottery winners often end up broke within a few years. It's why people who suddenly inherit money or experience a financial windfall frequently lose it all. Their conscious mind wanted the wealth, but their subconscious saw it as a threat to their identity and safety. The nervous system, trying to restore familiar homeostasis, created behaviors and circumstances that eliminated the abundance and returned them to their programmed baseline. You cannot sustain externally what you haven't become internally. Michael grew up in poverty and through tremendous effort built a successful business. But every time his bank account reached a certain level, something would happen. An equipment failure, a lawsuit, a bad investment. He couldn't understand why he kept experiencing these setbacks until he recognized the pattern. His subconscious wouldn't allow him to have more than his father had. Having more than his father felt like betrayal, like abandoning his family and his roots. His nervous system created crises to keep him at a familiar level of financial struggle, because that's what felt like home, what felt safe, even though it was precisely what he was trying to escape. The third block is the scarcity program, and this one is cultural conditioning that runs deep in almost everyone. You've been taught that resources are limited, that if someone else has more, there's less for you, that you need to compete, hustle, and fight for your piece of a finite pie. This programming creates a frequency of desperation, competition, and never enough that repels abundance. When you believe in scarcity, you operate from fear. And fear is the lowest, weakest frequency in the electromagnetic spectrum. You cannot attract abundance while broadcasting fear. The scarcity program shows up in countless ways. You see a sale and buy things you don't need because you're afraid the deal won't come again. You stay in a job you hate because you're afraid you won't find another one. You undercharge for your services because you're afraid clients won't pay more. You hoard money instead of investing it because you're afraid of losing it. Every decision driven by scarcity reinforces the program and broadcasts the frequency that attracts more scarcity. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that feels like reality, but is actually just a belief system running on autopilot. Solomon operated from the opposite program, abundance consciousness. He knew that the universe is infinite, that there's more than enough for everyone, that giving doesn't deplete you because you're connected to an unlimited source. This wasn't just positive thinking. This was a fundamental shift in his relationship with reality. He didn't hoard his wealth. He circulated it. He didn't compete with other kingdoms. He created value that made competition irrelevant. His entire consciousness was tuned to the frequency of more than enough. And that's exactly what the quantum field delivered to him continuously. The fourth block is the effort equation, and this one stops more people from wealth than almost anything else. You've been programmed to believe that money comes from hard work, that you have to struggle and sacrifice to earn abundance, that wealth requires tremendous effort and probably a bit of luck. This belief creates a frequency of resistance and strain. You're trying to force outcomes instead of allowing them to flow. You're pushing against the river instead of moving with it. And here's what you don't realize. The universe responds to your state of being, not your level of effort. Some of the wealthiest people in the world work less than you do. Some of the most abundant individuals spend their time in leisure, creativity, and joy while money flows to them effortlessly. This isn't because they're lucky or special. It's because they've dissolved the program that says wealth requires struggle. They've tuned into a frequency where abundance is natural, easy, and automatic. They're not working harder, they're vibrating higher. And high frequency attracts abundance far more powerfully than hard work, driven by low frequency fear and desperation. Lisa was exhausted. She was working 2 jobs, building a side business, and barely sleeping. She believed that if she just worked hard enough, eventually, she'd break through to success. But the harder she worked from a place of stress and depletion, the more obstacles appeared. Clients would cancel, payments would be delayed, unexpected problems would drain her resources. When she finally understood that she was broadcasting the frequency of struggle, she made a radical shift. She quit one job, reduced her hours at the other, and spent the freed-up time cultivating states of joy, rest, and ease. Within 3 months, her side business income had doubled. Not because she was working more, but because she stopped operating from the frequency of desperation and started embodying the frequency of inspired action and flow. The fifth block is the identity lock, And this is perhaps the most subtle but powerful program running your financial reality. You have an unconscious identity, a story about who you are, and your subconscious will do everything in its power to maintain consistency with that identity. If your identity is, "I'm someone who struggles with money," your subconscious will create situations that prove that story true. If your identity is, "I'm not good with numbers," you'll avoid financial education and opportunities. If your identity is, "I'm just a regular person who does okay," you'll sabotage anything that would elevate you beyond that self-definition. Your identity feels like truth, like the essence of who you are, but it's actually just a collection of thoughts you've believed so consistently that they've become your sense of self. And here's the liberating truth. Identity is changeable. Solomon didn't become wealthy by improving his circumstances. He became wealthy by changing his identity from a person who might become prosperous to a person who already was abundant at his core. He shifted his fundamental sense of self, and reality had no choice but to reorganize around that new identity. The sixth block is the shame and guilt program around money. Maybe you've made financial mistakes in the past. Maybe you've been in debt, declared bankruptcy, or made bad investments. Maybe you've taken money from family members or let people down financially. These experiences create shame, and shame is one of the lowest vibrational frequencies that exists. When you carry shame about money, you unconsciously punish yourself by creating financial limitation. You don't believe you deserve abundance because of your past mistakes, so your subconscious ensures you don't have it. David had excellent business skills and multiple opportunities for wealth, but he couldn't seem to hold on to money. Every time he accumulated savings, something would wipe it out. The root was guilt over a business that had failed years earlier, leaving investors with losses. He'd never forgiven himself, and his subconscious was ensuring he could never get ahead financially as a form of self-punishment. Once he recognized this pattern, forgave himself, and released the guilt, his financial situation stabilized and began to grow. The external circumstances didn't change until the internal frequency shifted. The seventh block is the relationship program. Your subconscious has learned to associate money with specific emotions based on your early experiences. If your parents fought about money, your subconscious may associate wealth with conflict and stress. If money was used as control or manipulation in your family, your subconscious may reject abundance to maintain autonomy. If you witnessed wealthy people behaving badly, your subconscious may have created the belief that rich people are greedy, selfish, or unethical, and therefore you must stay poor to be good. These emotional associations operate completely outside your conscious awareness, but they determine your financial outcomes with precision. You might consciously want wealth, but if your subconscious associates money with negative emotions or experiences, it will create distance between you and abundance to protect you from those feelings. Your nervous system thinks it's keeping you safe, never realizing that it's actually keeping you trapped. Rachel grew up watching her wealthy grandfather use money to control everyone in the family. She witnessed how his wealth made him arrogant and how it destroyed relationships. Her subconscious created an association. Wealth equals loss of love and connection. As an adult, every time she started making good money, she would create situations that sabotaged her success because her nervous system was protecting her from becoming like her grandfather. She had to consciously reprogram the association, creating a new belief that wealth could be a force for good, connection, and contribution before her financial reality could shift. The eighth block is the receiving program, and this one is devastating because you can be doing everything right to attract abundance. But if you can't receive it, it will never land in your life. Many people have tremendous difficulty receiving compliments, help, gifts, or opportunities. They deflect praise, refuse assistance, or feel uncomfortable when someone offers them something valuable. This inability to receive is a frequency block that tells the universe, I'm not open to having more. And if you're not open to receiving, abundance cannot flow to you. This program usually comes from childhood messages about not being a burden, not asking for too much, or having to earn everything you get. You learned that receiving makes you indebted, dependent, or weak, so you close yourself off from the natural flow of giving and receiving that characterizes an abundant life. Solomon understood that receiving is as important as giving. When the Queen of Sheba brought him gifts, he didn't refuse them out of false humility. He received them graciously because he understood that receiving is allowing the universe to flow through you. These 8 blocks, operating together in various combinations, create an electromagnetic interference pattern that distorts your natural frequency of abundance. They're like static on a radio signal, making it impossible to clearly tune in to Solomon's frequency of prosperity. And here's what makes them so insidious. They feel like reality. They feel like accurate assessments of your limitations rather than what they actually are, which is programming that can be changed. The great news is this: you are not your programming. You are the consciousness that can observe, question, and change your programming. The fact that you're reading these words right now means you're ready to identify these blocks and begin the process of dissolving them. Awareness is the first step. You cannot change what you cannot see, but once you see these programs operating, once you catch them in the act of sabotaging your success, you have the power to interrupt them and install new programming. In the next chapter, you're going to learn the exact process Solomon used to clear his consciousness of limiting programs and reprogram his subconscious mind for unlimited abundance. You're going to discover how to create new neural pathways that support wealth instead of sabotage it. You're going to learn how to shift your identity from someone who struggles with money to someone who naturally, effortlessly attracts prosperity. The blocks you've just identified are about to be dismantled, and the frequency of your true, abundant nature is about to emerge. Everything is about to change. Chapter 4. Awakening your magnetic financial field. You now know what's been blocking your abundance. You've seen the invisible programs that have been running your financial reality without your conscious permission. And I know what you're thinking. How do I change this? How do I reprogram decades of conditioning? How do I dissolve beliefs that feel like unchangeable truth? The answer is simpler than you think, but it requires something most people are unwilling to give: consistency, commitment, and a willingness to feel uncomfortable as you become someone new. Solomon didn't become the wealthiest man in history by accident or luck. He became wealthy through a deliberate, systematic process of consciousness transformation. He understood that to change your external reality, you must first change your internal frequency. And to change your internal frequency, you must rewire your brain, retrain your nervous system, and reprogram your subconscious mind. This isn't motivational fluff or positive thinking. This is the actual neurological and energetic work that creates lasting transformation. Let me explain what's happening in your brain right now. Every thought you've ever had, every belief you hold, every emotional pattern you run exists as a neural pathway in your brain. These pathways are like grooves worn into rock by water flowing over the same path for years. The thoughts you think most often have carved the deepest grooves, making those thoughts automatic and unconscious. When you think about money, your brain automatically runs down the pathways you've carved through repetition. If those pathways are programmed with scarcity, fear, and limitation, that's what fires automatically without your conscious choice. But here's the revolutionary discovery of modern neuroscience. Your brain is neuroplastic, which means it can change, reorganize, and create new pathways at any age. Every time you think a new thought, you begin to forge a new neural pathway. Every time you repeat that new thought, you strengthen that pathway. When you think the new thought consistently enough, it becomes a superhighway in your brain, firing automatically, becoming your new default program. You literally have the power to rewire your brain for abundance by consciously and consistently thinking thoughts that match the frequency of wealth. This is what Solomon practiced every single day. He didn't wait until he felt like thinking abundant thoughts. He didn't hope for inspiration to strike. He had a systematic, disciplined practice of consciously directing his mind toward the frequency of prosperity over and over until those thoughts became his automatic reality. He understood that transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a daily commitment to becoming someone new. The process begins with awareness. You must become conscious of your unconscious thoughts throughout your day. You have approximately 60 to 70,000 thoughts, and 90% of them are the same thoughts you had yesterday. Most of these thoughts run completely below your conscious awareness, driving your behavior, shaping your emotions, and creating your reality automatically. The first step is to catch these automatic thoughts, especially the ones about money, success, and your own capability. Start paying attention to the voice in your head when you think about your finances. Notice what it says. I can't afford this. I never have enough. Rich people are lucky. Money is hard to come by. I'm not good with money. These automatic thoughts are not truth. They're programs. And the moment you become aware of them, you gain the power to interrupt them and choose differently. Awareness breaks the spell of unconscious programming. The second step is interruption. When you catch an automatic limiting thought, you must consciously stop it before it can complete its pattern. This requires vigilance and commitment. Your old programs will resist change because they're trying to keep you in familiar territory. Your ego will fight to maintain your current identity because it perceives change as death. But you are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that can observe your thoughts and choose which ones to empower and which ones to dissolve. The technique is simple but powerful. The moment you notice a limiting thought about money, you interrupt it. You can say, cancel, cancel out loud or in your mind. You can visualize a stop sign. You can take a deep breath and release the thought on the exhale. The specific technique doesn't matter as much as the act of conscious interruption. You're breaking the automatic pattern, creating space for a new choice. The third step is replacement. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you simply try to stop thinking negative thoughts without replacing them with new thoughts, your mind will default back to the old programs. You must consciously install new thoughts, new beliefs, new patterns that match the frequency of abundance. This is where the real work happens, and it's where most people fail because they underestimate the power of repetition. Solomon knew that transformation requires immersion. You can't think one positive thought in the morning and expect your entire consciousness to shift. You must saturate your mind with new programming consistently, repeatedly, relentlessly, until the new thoughts become more automatic than the old ones. This means you need to prepare your new beliefs in advance, write them down, memorize them, and have them ready to install the moment you interrupt an old pattern. Here's what this looks like in practice. You catch yourself thinking, I can't afford this, and you immediately interrupt that thought. In the space created by the interruption, You install a new thought. I am connected to unlimited abundance. Money flows to me easily and continuously from multiple sources. You don't just think it once. You repeat it with feeling, with conviction, with the emotional energy that makes it stick in your nervous system. You're not trying to convince yourself it's true. You're commanding your subconscious to accept this as your new operating program. The fourth step is embodiment, and this is where quantum physics meets practical transformation. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you imagine something with enough sensory detail and emotional intensity, your brain fires the same neural patterns it would fire if the experience were actually happening. This means you can use your imagination to create the neural pathways of abundance before the physical evidence appears in your life. Every day, Solomon spent time in his temple, in deep meditative states, vividly experiencing the reality of unlimited wealth. He didn't hope for it or wish for it. He created the complete sensory experience of already having it. He saw his treasuries full of gold. He felt the weight of precious gems in his hands. He heard the sounds of prosperous trade happening in his kingdom. He experienced the emotions of abundance, joy, gratitude, peace, confidence, generosity. He lived the reality in his consciousness before it manifested in his circumstances. This is the practice that will transform your financial reality faster than anything else you could do. Set aside time every day, preferably in the morning before your conscious mind becomes cluttered with daily demands, to sit quietly and construct the experience of financial abundance in your imagination. Don't just visualize it from a distance like watching a movie. Embody it. Step into the experience as if it's happening right now. What do you see when you check your bank account and it has more money than you need? What does that feel like in your body? How do you breathe when you're financially free? What thoughts move through your mind when money is no longer a concern? Make this experience as real as possible by engaging all your senses. Touch the materials of the life you're creating. Hear the sounds of abundance. Smell the environment of your prosperous reality. Taste the satisfaction of financial freedom. And most importantly, feel the emotions. Joy, gratitude, excitement, peace, confidence. These elevated emotions are the magnetic force that draws abundance to you. When your body feels like it's already living in wealth, your electromagnetic field broadcasts that frequency powerfully, and the quantum field must respond with matching circumstances. The fifth step is repetition. This is where most people abandon the process because they don't see immediate results. They practice visualization once or twice, don't notice external changes, and conclude it doesn't work. But neuroplasticity requires repetition. You're competing against decades of old programming. You must repeat the new thoughts and experiences consistently until they become more dominant than the old pattern. Scientists have found that it takes approximately 66 days of consistent practice to establish a new automatic habit. This means you need to commit to this work daily for at least 2 months before the new programming becomes your default reality. Solomon didn't practice abundance consciousness for a week and then stop. He lived in this practice. It was woven into the fabric of his daily routine, his rituals, his environment. He understood that transformation isn't a weekend workshop or a burst of inspiration. Transformation is the result of small, consistent actions repeated until they become your new nature. The sixth step is environmental alignment. Your external environment is constantly influencing your internal state. If you're surrounded by messages of scarcity, you'll have to work harder to maintain abundance frequency. Solomon designed his entire environment to support elevated consciousness. His temple, his palace, his daily routines, everything was crafted to amplify and reinforce the frequency of prosperity. You can do the same on whatever scale is available to you. Clean your space and organize your finances, because chaos in your environment creates chaos in your consciousness. Surround yourself with images, symbols, or objects that represent abundance to you. Place inspiring quotes where you'll see them daily. Create a vision board, not as a wishful thinking exercise, but as a tool to train your brain to recognize and expect prosperity. Listen to music that elevates your emotional state. Read books and consume content that reinforces abundance consciousness. Spend time with people who think and speak about possibility rather than limitation. Every element of your environment either supports your new frequency or pulls you back toward old patterns. Be ruthless about protecting your consciousness from scarcity programming. This might mean limiting news consumption, setting boundaries with negative people, or changing the conversations you participate in. You're in the process of becoming someone new, and your environment must reflect and support that transformation. The seventh step is aligned action. Some people misunderstand manifestation as passive visualization while waiting for miracles. But Solomon took action, lots of action. The difference was that his actions came from an abundant state of being rather than a desperate state of needing. He didn't work from fear, scarcity, or striving. He worked from inspiration, creativity, and the overflow of his elevated consciousness. When you're in the frequency of abundance, opportunities become visible that were invisible before. Intuitive insights arise about which actions to take and when. Synchronicities occur that connect you with the right people and circumstance. Your job is to act on these impulses when they arise, trusting that they're coming from your newly aligned frequency rather than your old programming. If an idea excites you, if an opportunity lights you up, if an impulse feels like expansion rather than contraction, that's your abundant self guiding you toward manifestation. The eighth step is gratitude as a frequency amplifier. Solomon was legendary for his gratitude practices. He didn't wait until he was wealthy to be grateful. He practiced gratitude constantly for everything, regardless of circumstances. Why? Because gratitude is one of the highest frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum. When you're genuinely grateful, you're broadcasting a powerful signal of abundance. You're telling the universe, I have more than enough. And the universe responds by giving you more to be grateful for. Transform gratitude from a moral obligation into a frequency technology. Throughout your day, find reasons to feel genuine appreciation, not fake, forced positivity, but real recognition of the abundance that already exists in your life. You have air to breathe. You have a body that works. You have consciousness to experience this reality. You have access to information that people throughout history would have considered magical. When you truly appreciate what you already have, you create the magnetic field that attracts more to appreciate. Practice gratitude specifically for money, even if you don't have as much as you want. Be grateful for the money you do have. Appreciate the coins in your pocket. Feel genuine thankfulness when you pay bills, because it means you had the resources to pay them. Thank money when it comes to you and when it leaves you, because this practice shifts your relationship with money from fear and scarcity to trust and flow. Money is energy, and energy flows toward appreciation and away from resentment. The ninth step is identity integration. At some point in this process, you must make a decision about who you are. Not who you hope to become or who you're trying to be, but who you actually are at the deepest level of your being. Solomon didn't see himself as a person trying to become wealthy. He saw himself as an abundant being, expressing through human form. His identity wasn't tied to his circumstances. It was rooted in his connection to infinite source. You must claim your new identity before your circumstances prove it's real. This is the leap of faith that quantum manifestation requires. You must be willing to say, "I am abundant," when your bank account says otherwise. You must be willing to feel wealthy before the money arrives. You must be willing to think like a prosperous person, speak like a prosperous person, and make decisions like a prosperous person, even when your current reality doesn't match that identity. This isn't delusion or denial. This is understanding that your current circumstances are the result of your old identity. They're lag time, the physical manifestation of who you used to be. Your new identity is creating new circumstances right now, but there's a gap between the internal shift and the external evidence. If you revert to your old identity because you don't see immediate results, you abort the manifestation process. But if you hold your new identity consistently, the physical evidence must eventually appear because reality always catches up to consciousness. The 10th and final step is surrender. This seems contradictory after everything I've just told you about taking control of your conscious, but it's actually the missing piece that makes everything work. After you've done the work of reprogramming your mind, clearing your blocks, aligning your frequency, and taking inspired action, you must release attachment to exactly how and when abundance appears. You must trust that the universe is organizing circumstances in ways your limited human perspective cannot see or understand. Solomon worked diligently, but he also rested in the knowing that he was supported by intelligence far greater than his individual mind. He planted seeds and trusted the harvest. He set intentions and allowed the universe to deliver them in forms that often exceeded what he'd imagined. This is the balance between discipline and flow, between effort and grace, between doing your part and allowing the universe to do its part. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender means releasing the desperate grip of control. It means doing your work without the anxious energy of making something happen. It means trusting that when you align your frequency with abundance, abundance is already on its way to you through channels you cannot predict or control. Your job is to maintain the frequency. The universe's job is to deliver the manifestation. You now have the complete system that Solomon used to transform his consciousness and magnetize unprecedented wealth into his life. This isn't theory. This is practice. These 10 steps, applied consistently, will rewire your brain, reprogram your subconscious, shift your frequency, and transform your financial reality. But knowledge without application is useless. You must commit to this work not for a day or a week, but for as long as it takes for this new way of being to become your natural, automatic state. The magnetic financial field that lies dormant within you is awakening with every new thought, every interrupted pattern, every moment of embodied abundance. You're activating the same power that made Solomon legendary. The blocks are dissolving. The frequency is shifting. Your consciousness is transforming. And your external reality, which has no choice but to match your internal state, is already beginning to reorganize itself into new patterns of prosperity. Everything is changing because you are changing. Welcome to your new frequency. Chapter 5. The exact frequency of 500 hertz, Solomon's tone. There's a sound that has existed since the beginning of creation, a frequency so fundamental to the structure of reality that ancient civilizations built temples to amplify it, mystics meditated to embody it, and kings like Solomon understood its power to transform consciousness and manifest abundance. Modern science calls it 528 hertz. Ancient traditions called it the frequency of miracles, the tone of love, the vibration of divine creation. And here's what you need to understand. This isn't mystical poetry. This is measurable physics that you can use to accelerate your transformation and magnetize wealth into your life. Everything in the universe vibrates. Your body vibrates. Your thoughts vibrate. Money vibrates. And when two things vibrate at compatible frequencies, they resonate, they attract, they connect. This is why you've probably experienced walking into a room and immediately feeling uncomfortable, even though nothing obvious was wrong. You were picking up on frequencies that didn't match your own. It's why you meet certain people and instantly feel a connection, like you've known them forever. Your frequencies are in harmony. This isn't coincidence. This is physics. Solomon didn't discover 528 hertz in a laboratory, but he understood through ancient wisdom that certain sounds, certain vibrations, create specific effects in consciousness and matter. His temple was designed with acoustics that naturally amplified frequencies in this range. When he prayed, meditated, or performed rituals, he was surrounded by sound waves that literally reorganized his cellular structure, his neural pathways, and his electromagnetic field into patterns of coherence and harmony. He was using sound as technology, as a tool for consciousness transformation. Modern scientists have now validated what Solomon knew 3,000 years ago. In 2010, researchers discovered that 528 hertz frequency has the power to repair DNA. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, but literally at the molecular level. When DNA is damaged by stress, toxins, or trauma, exposure to 528 hertz helps restore it to its original, healthy structure. Think about that. A specific vibration can fix the fundamental building blocks of your biology. If sound can repair DNA, what else can it do? What other transformations become possible when you learn to work with frequency intentionally? Dr. Leonard Horowitz, a pioneer in frequency research, identified 528 hertz as the frequency used by genetic biochemists to repair damaged DNA. He found that this frequency is at the center of the original solfeggio scale, a 6-tone scale used in ancient Gregorian chants. These weren't arbitrary musical choices. These were precision instruments of consciousness transformation, passed down through mystery schools and sacred traditions, partially lost over centuries, and now being rediscovered by science. The solfeggio frequencies work by creating resonance in your energy field and your physical body when you're exposed to 528 hertz. Whether through sound or through the vibrational state you create in meditation, your cells begin to vibrate in harmony with that frequency. This harmonic resonance creates coherence, which is the state where all the parts of you work together efficiently instead of working against each other. And coherence is the state from which manifestation becomes effortless. Let me explain why this matters for your wealth. When your body is in coherence, when your cells are vibrating in harmony, your electromagnetic field becomes strong, organized, and powerful. This field extends beyond your physical body and interacts with the quantum field of infinite possibility. A coherent electromagnetic field is a magnet. A chaotic, disorganized field repels what it wants to attract. You've been trying to manifest abundance with a field that's vibrating at 1,000 different frequencies, creating static and interference. Solomon maintained his field in coherent resonance with the frequency of creation itself, and that's why wealth flowed to him with such ease. But here's what makes 528 hertz specifically powerful for manifesting abundance. This frequency is associated with the heart chakra in ancient energy systems. Your heart, as we discussed earlier, generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body. When your heart is vibrating at 528 hertz, at the frequency of love, gratitude, and abundance, it broadcasts that signal powerfully into the field around you. People feel it, opportunities align with it, circumstances organize around it. You become a walking, breathing broadcast tower of prosperity consciousness. The scientific term for this is cardiac coherence, and it's measurable with modern equipment. When you're in a state of elevated emotion like love, joy, or gratitude, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered. This coherent heart rhythm synchronizes your entire nervous system, your brain waves, your hormones, and even your immune function. Everything in your body works better when your heart is in coherence. But more importantly for manifestation, your electromagnetic field becomes exponentially more powerful, increasing your influence on the quantum field and accelerating the speed at which your intentions materialize. Solomon spent significant time each day in practices that brought his heart into coherence. He didn't call it by that name, but he understood that the state of his heart determined the state of his reality. When he felt genuine love, not romantic love, but universal love, the love that recognizes the divine in all creation, his heart would naturally resonate at frequencies that harmonized with abundance. He didn't force this state. He cultivated it through practices that are available to you right now. Here's how you can work with 528 hertz and cardiac coherence to transform your financial reality. First, understand that you don't need special equipment or complicated techniques. Your consciousness is the most powerful technology you possess. You can tune yourself to any frequency through the power of intention, imagination, and emotion. But you can also use actual sound at 528 hertz to help entrain your body into this frequency more easily, especially when you're beginning this practice. There are thousands of recordings available online of pure 528 hertz tones, 528 hertz music, or binaural beats that incorporate this frequency. Find one that resonates with you and use it as a tool for your daily practice. Play it in the background while you work. Meditate with it, or listen to it before sleep when your subconscious mind is most receptive. You're not just listening to pleasant sounds. You're literally bathing your cells in a frequency that promotes healing, coherence, and alignment with abundance. But the real power comes when you combine the external frequency with your internal practice. Sit comfortably, play 528 hertz music or tones, and place your attention in your heart center, the area in the middle of your chest. Breathe slowly and deeply, imagining that you're breathing in and out through your heart. This simple technique, breathing through your heart, begins to create coherence almost immediately. Your heart rate variability becomes smooth and ordered. Your nervous system shifts from stress response to restoration mode. Your brain waves slow down to alpha or theta states, where you have access to your subconscious programming. As you breathe through your heart, begin to generate a feeling of gratitude, not forced or fake, but authentic appreciation for anything in your life, no matter how small. Maybe it's gratitude for your breath, for being alive, for the sunset you saw yesterday, for a person you love, for the opportunity to transform your life in this moment. Feel that gratitude as completely as you can. Let it fill your chest. Let it warm your body. Let it expand beyond your physical form. This feeling of gratitude is generating 528 hertz in your heart. You're not just listening to the frequency, you're becoming the frequency. When you sustain this state of heart-centered gratitude for several minutes, something remarkable happens. Your consciousness shifts. Problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly feel manageable. Solutions that were invisible become obvious. You feel connected to something larger than your individual self. You feel abundant, not because you have more money, but because you're accessing the field of infinite abundance that exists beyond physical circumstances. This is the state Solomon lived in. This is the frequency from which he manifested legendary wealth. Now, from this coherent, elevated state, bring to mind your financial desires. Don't think about them from need or desperation. Experience them from the frequency of already having. See your bank account with the numbers you desire. Feel what it feels like to be financially free. Imagine making decisions without considering cost. Picture yourself contributing to causes you care about, supporting people you love, living in the home you desire, experiencing the lifestyle that excites you. But here's the key. You're not imagining this from your normal state of consciousness. You're imagining it while maintaining the frequency of 528. While staying in heart coherence, while feeling grateful and abundant. This combination is the secret technology that Solomon used. He didn't just visualize wealth. He didn't just think positive thoughts. He aligned his entire being with the frequency of creation, brought his heart into coherence with universal abundance, and from that elevated state, he imprinted his intentions into the quantum field. The field had no choice but to respond, because he was operating at the frequency where miracles naturally occur. Practice this daily, and you'll notice changes in your external reality within weeks. Not because you're forcing anything to happen, but because you're finally removing the interference patterns that were blocking your natural abundance. You're tuning yourself to the channel where prosperity broadcasts continuously. You're becoming a resonant match for the wealth that has always been available, but couldn't reach you while you were vibrating at frequencies of fear, scarcity, and limitation. There's another dimension to 528 Hz that ancient wisdom understood, but modern culture has forgotten. This frequency connects you to nature's abundance. Everything in nature operates in harmony, in cooperation, in abundance. Trees don't struggle to grow. Rivers don't force their flow. Birds don't worry about finding food. They're all operating at natural frequencies that align with universal supply. When you tune yourself to 528 Hz, you're aligning with the same intelligence that orchestrates nature's effortless abundance. You're remembering that you're not separate from nature. You're part of it, and you have access to the same infinite resources. Solomon recognized this in the design of his temple. He incorporated natural elements, specific stones, and organic materials that naturally resonated at beneficial frequencies. He understood that being surrounded by nature's vibrations helped maintain his consciousness in elevated states. He didn't fight against nature. He aligned with it. He didn't try to control reality through force. He harmonized with the frequencies that already create abundance everywhere in the natural world. You can apply this understanding immediately. Spend time in nature regularly. Walk barefoot on grass or soil to ground your electromagnetic field with the Earth's frequency. Sit by water and allow its sound to entrain your nervous system into coherence. Listen to birds. Feel the sun on your skin. Breathe clean air. You're not just relaxing, you're recalibrating your frequency to match the abundance frequency of nature itself. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is frequency alignment with the most abundant system on the planet. The ancient mystery schools taught that sound was the first act of creation. In the beginning was the Word, Scripture tells us. The Word, the sound, the vibration that spoke reality into existence. This isn't religious dogma. This is describing the fundamental truth that frequency precedes form. Before anything exists physically, it exists as vibration. Solomon understood that to create anything in physical reality, You must first create it as frequency. Master the frequency, and matter must follow. This is why mantras, chants, and toning have been used in spiritual traditions across all cultures. They're not superstitions. They're technologies for shifting consciousness through sound. When you chant a mantra repeatedly, you're not just saying words. You're creating vibrations that affect your neural pathways, your cellular structure, and your electromagnetic field. You're using sound as a tool to reprogram your consciousness and shift your reality. You can create your own wealth mantra and tone it at 528 Hertz. It doesn't have to be complicated. Something as simple as, I am abundant, wealth flows to me, repeated while maintaining heart coherence and feeling genuine gratitude, becomes a powerful frequency generator. The words carry intention. The feeling creates electromagnetic broadcast, and the consistent repetition rewires your neural pathways. You're not hoping for wealth. You're generating the frequency that attracts wealth automatically. Solomon was known for his song. He wrote over 1,000 songs, and ancient texts hint that these weren't just artistic expressions. They were precisely crafted frequency tools designed to maintain elevated consciousness. When he sang, he wasn't entertaining himself. He was tuning his entire being to specific frequencies that supported his intentions. Music wasn't separate from his spiritual practice or his governance. It was integral to his mastery of consciousness and manifestation. You don't need to write 1,000 songs, but you can use music intentionally to support your frequency alignment. Notice how different types of music make you feel. Some music elevates you, makes you feel expansive, powerful, abundant. Other music depresses you, makes you feel heavy, limited, stuck. You're not just responding to lyrics or melodies. You're responding to frequencies. Choose music that resonates with the frequency of abundance. Make it part of your environment. Use it to shift your state when you notice yourself dropping into lower frequencies of fear or limitation. There's a phenomenon in physics called sympathetic resonance. If you have two tuning forks of the same frequency and you strike one, the other will begin to vibrate even though you didn't touch it. They resonate with each other through the air, through frequency transmission. This same principle applies to your consciousness. When you vibrate at the frequency of abundance, you begin to resonate with other people, opportunities, and circumstances that match that frequency. You don't have to go looking for wealth, it finds you, because you're broadcasting the matching frequency. This is why Solomon attracted wealth from all directions. The Queen of Sheba traveled great distances to meet him, bringing tremendous gifts. Kings sent tributes. Traders sought to do business in his kingdom. He wasn't chasing these opportunities. He was resonating at a frequency that magnetized them naturally. He had become a tuning fork, vibrating at the frequency of prosperity, and everything that matched that frequency was drawn to him through sympathetic resonance. Understand that 528 isn't magic, it's mechanics. It's not about believing in some supernatural force. It's about understanding how vibration works and using that understanding to align yourself with the frequencies that create the reality you desire. Your skepticism or belief doesn't change the physics. Sound waves at 520 beats affect DNA, whether you believe in it or not. Your electromagnetic field broadcasts your emotional state, whether you're aware of it or not. The universe responds to your frequency, whether you understand the mechanism or not. But when you do understand it, when you consciously work with frequency, as Solomon did, you gain access to a level of creative power that most people never discover. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a master of vibration. You stop hoping for good luck and start generating the frequency that attracts beneficial outcome. You stop struggling against reality and start harmonizing with the forces that create reality. The 528 Hertz frequency is your birthright. It's not reserved for spiritual masters or ancient kings. It's the fundamental vibration of creation itself, and you can tune into it anytime through your consciousness, your heart, your emotions, and your intention. Solomon used this frequency to build legendary wealth, not because he was special, but because he understood something that anyone can understand and apply. He knew that reality responds to vibration, and he mastered the art of maintaining the vibration that corresponds with unlimited abundance. Every moment you spend in heart coherence, every time you feel genuine gratitude, every occasion you align yourself with 528 Hertz through sound or consciousness, you're building momentum toward your financial breakthrough. You're not working harder, you're vibrating higher. And high vibration always attracts abundance, because that's how the universe is designed to operate. Not through struggle and force, but through harmony and resonance. Your consciousness is the most sophisticated frequency generator in existence. You've been using it unconsciously your entire life, broadcasting whatever frequencies your programming dictated. Now you're learning to use it consciously, deliberately, powerfully. You're learning to tune yourself to Solomon's frequency, the tone of miracles, the vibration of creation, the sound of infinite abundance made manifest. And as you master this frequency, your entire reality must transform to match, because reality has no choice but to reflect the vibration you consistently broadcast. Welcome to the frequency where wealth is not pursued, but magnetized, where abundance is not achieved, but realized, where prosperity is not earned, but embodied. This is Solomon's tone, and it's now becoming your frequency. Chapter 6. Reprogramming your subconscious for automatic wealth. Your conscious mind is reading these words right now, processing information, making decisions about what you think and believe. But your conscious mind controls only about 5% of your life. The other 95% is run by your subconscious mind, the massive processing system operating beneath your awareness that determines your automatic behaviors, emotional reactions, and the reality you consistently create. And here's the truth that changes everything. Your subconscious mind doesn't care what you consciously want. It only responds to what has been programmed into it through repetition, emotion, and authority. Solomon understood something that modern psychology has only recently confirmed. Lasting transformation cannot happen through willpower alone. You cannot override subconscious programming with conscious effort for very long. It's like trying to swim against a powerful current. You might make progress for a while, but eventually, exhaustion sets in, and the current carries you back to where you started. The only way to create permanent change is to reprogram the subconscious itself, to change the current so it flows in the direction you want to go. Think about this. Every financial result you've experienced in your life has been created by your subconscious programming. When you struggle with money, it's not because you're unlucky or incapable. It's because somewhere deep in your subconscious, there are programs running that believe you should struggle. When you self-sabotage opportunities, it's not because you're weak. It's because your subconscious has been programmed to keep you in familiar territory, even if that territory is limitation. Your conscious mind might want millions, but if your subconscious has been programmed to believe you're only worth $50,000 a year, that's exactly what you'll create year after year, regardless of your effort or intention. The subconscious mind is like the hard drive of a computer. It stores all your memories, beliefs, experiences, and learned behaviors. Unlike the conscious mind, which can think abstractly and imagine possibilities, the subconscious is literal. practical, and concerned only with keeping you alive in familiar patterns. It doesn't distinguish between what's good for you and what's bad for you. It only knows what's familiar and what's unfamiliar. Familiar equals safe, even if familiar means poverty. Unfamiliar equals dangerous, even if unfamiliar means wealth. This is why you can read books about abundance, attend seminars about manifestation, and understand intellectually that you deserve wealth, yet still remain stuck in the same financial patterns. Your conscious mind learned something new, but your subconscious programming didn't change. It's still running the old programs installed in your first 7 years of life, when your brain waves were predominantly in theta state, a highly suggestible condition where information bypasses critical thinking and goes straight into permanent storage. During those formative years, you absorbed thousands of beliefs about money without any filter. When your parents said, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "We can't afford that," your subconscious recorded those statements as fundamental truths about reality. When you witnessed them worrying about bills or fighting about finances, your nervous system learned that money equals stress and conflict. When you heard that rich people are greedy or that it's noble to struggle, your subconscious filed those beliefs away as operating instructions for your life. None of this was your choice, but all of it has been running your financial reality ever since. Solomon's first task in creating his wealth wasn't external strategy, it was internal reprogramming. He had to access his subconscious mind and install new programs that would automatically create abundance instead of automatically creating limitation. He couldn't rely on conscious willpower because willpower is exhaustible and the subconscious is relentless. He needed to speak the language that the subconscious understands, and that language is not logic or reason. The subconscious responds to repetition, emotion, imagery, and altered states of consciousness. Let me explain how to access and reprogram your subconscious using the exact principles Solomon employed. The first key is understanding brainwave states. Your conscious analytical mind operates primarily in beta waves, the fast active frequency of daily waking life. But your subconscious is most accessible when your brain slows down to alpha or theta waves, the relaxed, dreamy states between waking and sleeping. This is why meditation, hypnosis, and the moments right before sleep are so powerful for reprogramming. In these states, your critical mind relaxes its guard, and new information can reach the subconscious directly. Solomon spent significant time in meditative states, not just for spiritual communion, but because he understood this was the doorway to his subconscious mind. In these altered states, he could implant new beliefs, new identities, new programs that would then run automatically when he returned to normal consciousness. He was doing sophisticated psychological work without the terminology we use today, but the mechanics were exactly the same. Here's how you can do this starting tonight. The most powerful time to reprogram your subconscious is in the moments right before you fall asleep. As you're lying in bed, your brain naturally transitions from beta to alpha to theta on its way to the delta waves of deep sleep. That window when you're drowsy but still conscious is your access point to subconscious reprogramming. Instead of falling asleep to worry, problems, or random thoughts, you're going to deliberately install new programming. Prepare your new programs in advance. Write them down as clear, present tense statements that describe the financial reality you want to create. Not "I want to be wealthy," which affirms lack, but "I am wealthy. Money flows to me easily and continuously from multiple sources. I am worthy of unlimited abundance. Wealth is my natural state." These statements need to be emotionally charged, meaning you must feel them as you repeat them, not just think them. Your subconscious responds more powerfully to emotion than to words alone. As you're lying in bed in that drowsy state, repeat these statements slowly, over and over, with as much feeling as you can generate. See images of your wealthy life. Feel the emotions of financial freedom. Hear the sounds of abundance. You're not trying to fall asleep, but you're also not trying to stay fully awake. You're riding that edge between consciousness and sleep, and in that state, every repetition of your new belief is being written directly onto your subconscious hard drive with minimal resistance from your critical mind. Some nights, you'll fall asleep after a few repetitions, and that's perfect, because your last thoughts before sleep continue processing in your subconscious throughout the night. Other nights, you might stay in that state longer, repeating your new programs dozens of times. Either way, you're doing the work of reprogramming. You're installing new software that will run automatically during your waking hours, guiding your decisions, perceptions, and actions toward wealth instead of limitation. The second powerful time for subconscious reprogramming is first thing in the morning, in those early moments as you're waking up. Your brain is transitioning from sleep to wakefulness, passing through the same theta and alpha states that make your subconscious accessible. Instead of immediately checking your phone or jumping into worry about the day ahead, spend 5 to 10 minutes in that half-awake state, repeating your abundance programs, feeling your wealthy reality, and impressing new beliefs onto your subconscious before your conscious mind fully engages. This morning and evening practice is exactly what Solomon did. Though he framed it as prayer and ritual, he bookended each day with time in altered states, impressing upon his subconscious the reality of unlimited abundance. He wasn't hoping or wishing, he was programming. And because he did this consistently, day after day, his subconscious eventually accepted these new beliefs as absolute truth. And then his automatic behaviors, his opportunities, and his results aligned with those beliefs without any conscious effort. The third technique for subconscious reprogramming is the use of affirmations, but not the way most people practice them. Simply repeating positive statements while your conscious mind argues with them does nothing except create internal conflict. Effective affirmations must bypass the critical conscious mind and reach the subconscious directly. This requires either entering an altered state first or overwhelming the conscious mind with such rapid repetition that it can't keep up with objections. Solomon used repetitive chants and songs to achieve this. When you repeat something rhythmically, over and over, your conscious mind eventually gets bored and stops paying attention. In that moment of mental fatigue, the words slip past your critical filter and into your subconscious. This is why mantras work across every spiritual tradition. They're not magic spells. They're psychological tools that use rhythm and repetition to access the subconscious programming center. Create a short, powerful statement about your wealth. Make it rhythmic and easy to repeat rapidly. Something like, "Wealth flows to me, I am prosperous and free," or "Money comes easily, abundance is my reality." Set a timer for 5 minutes and repeat this statement out loud as fast as you can, over and over, without stopping. Your tongue might get tired, your mind might resist, but push through. After a few minutes of this rapid-fire repetition, something shifts. Your conscious mind gives up trying to argue, and the statement begins to sink into deeper levels of your consciousness. This is subconscious reprogramming in action. The fourth method is visualization in a meditative state, but with a crucial upgrade that most people miss. You're not just visualizing your desired outcome, like watching a movie on a screen in your mind. You're creating a complete sensory experience that tricks your subconscious into believing it's actually happening right now. Your subconscious cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you create the experience of wealth with enough detail and emotional intensity, your brain creates the same neural pathways it would create if you were actually wealthy. These neural pathways then become your new automatic programming. Get into a relaxed, meditative state through deep breathing or listening to 500 to 128 Hz music. Once you feel deeply relaxed, construct the most detailed sensory experience of your wealthy life that you can imagine. You're not watching yourself be wealthy. You are wealthy in this imagination. Look around your environment. What do you see? Touch things. What do they feel like? Listen to sounds. What do you hear? Engage, smell, and taste, if relevant. But most importantly, feel the emotions. How does it feel in your body to be financially free? What's the quality of your breath? How do you hold yourself? What thoughts naturally flow through your mind when money is no longer a concern? Spend at least 15 to 20 minutes fully immersed in this experience. The longer you can sustain this vivid, sensory-rich, emotionally charged visualization, the deeper it programs into your subconscious. You're literally building new neural pathways that will then guide your automatic behavior in waking life toward experiences that match what you've programmed. Solomon did this in his temple, in his meditation practices, in his rituals. He lived in the experience of abundance internally before it manifested externally, and his subconscious had no choice but to guide him toward the physical manifestation of what had become his internal reality. The fifth technique is the use of hypnosis or guided meditation specifically designed for wealth programming. In hypnotic states, your conscious mind's critical filter is completely bypassed, allowing suggestions to go directly into your subconscious. Professional hypnotherapists understand how to guide you into deep trance states and install new beliefs effectively. But you can also use recorded hypnosis sessions designed for abundance and wealth consciousness. Listen to these recordings in the evening before sleep or first thing in the morning, and allow the suggestions to reprogram your subconscious without resistance or analysis. The key is consistency and repetition. Your current subconscious programs were installed through years of repetition. You heard thousands of messages about money being scarce, hard to get, or stressful. To overwrite these old programs, you need to install new programs through equal or greater repetition. This isn't a one-time event or a week-long project. This is a commitment to daily practice until the new programming becomes more dominant than the old. Solomon didn't practice abundance consciousness for a month and then stop. It was his way of life, woven into every day through morning rituals, evening practices, meditation, prayer, song, and environmental design. He surrounded himself with reminders of abundance. He spoke words of prosperity constantly. He immersed his consciousness in the frequency of wealth until it became his automatic operating system. This is what's required of you. Not perfection, but consistent, persistent, daily practice of reprogramming your subconscious mind. There's a phenomenon in neuroscience called cognitive priming. Your subconscious is constantly scanning your environment for information that matches your programmed beliefs, and it filters out everything else. If you're programmed for scarcity, you literally don't see opportunities that are right in front of you because your subconscious filters them out as irrelevant. But when you reprogram for abundance, your subconscious begins to notice opportunities, resources, and possibilities that were always there but invisible to your old programming. You start seeing chances to make money, meet influential people, or discover resources that you would have walked past before. This is why Solomon seemed to have supernatural insight. People thought he was divinely guided because he saw opportunities and made decisions that others couldn't perceive. But it wasn't divine intervention in the way most people think. It was the result of subconscious programming that was constantly scanning reality through the filter of abundance, noticing everything that matched wealth consciousness, while others were programmed to see only limitation and obstacle. Your subconscious also controls your comfort zone, that invisible boundary of what you believe is possible for you. Most people have a financial thermostat set at a certain level, and whenever they go above that level, they subconsciously create situations that bring them back down. Likewise, if they fall below it, they somehow find a way to get back up. This thermostat was set by your early programming, and it operates entirely subconsciously. You're not aware of it, but it's controlling your financial reality with precision. Reprogramming your subconscious means resetting this thermostat. You're telling your nervous system that it's safe to have more, that wealth is part of your identity, that abundance is your new normal. This requires you to consciously expose yourself to higher levels of wealth in your imagination until your nervous system recalibrates. Imagine having $10,000 in your bank account, if that's beyond your current comfort zone. Sit with that image until the nervous system activation calms down and it feels normal. Then move to $50,000, then $100,000, then $1 million. You're expanding your comfort zone gradually, reprogramming your subconscious thermostat to accept higher levels of wealth as safe and normal. Solomon didn't have the psychological language we use today, but he practiced this principle constantly. He surrounded himself with displays of wealth, not out of ego, but to normalize abundance in his consciousness. His subconscious needed to see gold, jewels, and treasure as ordinary rather than rare. By making extreme wealth his everyday environment, his nervous system recalibrated to that level, and his subconscious worked automatically to maintain that standard, rather than sabotaging it. You can do this by exposing yourself to images and experiences of wealth within your means. Visit luxury stores without buying anything, simply to normalize being in that environment. Look at expensive homes online, not with envy, but with familiarity, training your subconscious to see that level of wealth as accessible. Watch videos of successful people, not to compare yourself unfavorably, but to program your subconscious with evidence that this level of success is achievable by regular humans. You're not coveting what others have. You're using their success as proof that wealth is possible, and you're allowing your subconscious to absorb that evidence. Another crucial aspect of subconscious reprogramming is eliminating the contradictory programming. While you're trying to install beliefs about abundance, your subconscious is also receiving messages from your current circumstances, your conversations, the news, and your internal dialogue that reinforce limitation. If you spend 30 minutes programming abundance, and then spend the rest of your day thinking and talking about lack, you're not making progress. You're strengthening the old programs faster than you're building new ones. This means you must become vigilant about the information you consume and the conversations you participate in. Solomon was extremely selective about his environment and his counsel. He didn't surround himself with people who complained about difficulty or spoke of scarcity. He maintained an environment that constantly reinforced abundance consciousness. You must do the same. Limit exposure to news that breeds fear. Stop participating in conversations that focus on problems and lack. Choose entertainment and information that elevates your consciousness rather than depresses it. Protect your subconscious from contradictory programming while you're installing new beliefs. The process of subconscious reprogramming is not instant, but it's inevitable if you persist. Neuroscience tells us that it takes approximately 66 days of consistent practice to establish a new automatic habit. Some people see results sooner, some take longer, but the principle is certain. Consistent repetition creates permanent change. Your subconscious will eventually accept whatever you repeat to it with emotion and consistency. It has no choice. It's designed to learn from repetition and store those lessons as automatic programs. Solomon dedicated years to mastering his consciousness, but you'll see evidence of change much sooner than that. Within weeks of daily practice, you'll notice subtle shifts. Opportunities you wouldn't have seen before suddenly appear. People respond to you differently. Financial stress decreases even before circumstances change dramatically. These are signs that your subconscious programming is shifting, that your electromagnetic field is broadcasting a new frequency, and that reality is beginning to reorganize around your new internal state. The transformation you're creating isn't just about having more money. You're becoming a different person at the level of identity, belief, and automatic behavior. You're becoming someone who naturally, effortlessly creates and attracts wealth, because that's who you are at the subconscious level. This new person doesn't have to think about abundance or work at maintaining positive thoughts. Abundance is simply their default reality because their subconscious has been reprogrammed to operate from that frequency automatically. This is the freedom Solomon achieved, and the freedom available to you. Not the freedom of having money, but the freedom of being abundant at such a deep level that money flows naturally as a result of who you've become. Your conscious effort is only needed during the reprogramming phase. Once the new programs are installed and running automatically, creating wealth becomes as natural as breathing. You don't have to think about it, analyze it, or force it. Your subconscious handles everything, guiding you toward wealthy outcomes through automatic behaviors, perceptions, and decisions that match your new programming. Welcome to the work of true transformation. Not changing what you do, but changing who you are at the deepest, most automatic level of your being. Your subconscious is ready to be reprogrammed. It's been waiting for you to take control, to become the conscious programmer of your own mind, rather than the unconscious product of other people's programming. Solomon showed us it's possible. Science has shown us how it works. Now it's your turn to do the work, day by day, repetition by repetition, until wealth becomes your automatic reality. Chapter 7. The Emotional State of Unlimited Abundance. Your emotions are not just feelings that happen to you. They are the most powerful creative force you possess, the magnetic component of manifestation that pulls your desires from the quantum field into physical reality. Solomon understood something that most people miss entirely. Wealth isn't created by thoughts alone. It's created by thoughts married to elevated emotions. You can think about abundance all day long, but if you're feeling fear, worry, or lack, your emotional state is the frequency you're actually broadcasting, and that's what the universe must respond to with matching circumstances. Let me be absolutely clear about this. Your emotional state is your point of attraction, not what you say you want, not what you visualize occasionally, but the emotional frequency you live in most of the time is what's creating your financial reality. If you spend your days feeling stressed about money, anxious about the future, or resentful about what others have, you're broadcasting a frequency of scarcity that must attract more scarcity. It doesn't matter what affirmations you repeat or how well you understand the principles intellectually. Your dominant emotional state is the signal the universe receives and the reality it returns to you. Solomon didn't become wealthy through strategy, hard work, or even wisdom alone. He became wealthy by mastering his emotional state and maintaining himself in the specific feelings that correspond with abundance. He lived in gratitude, generosity, celebration, and joy regardless of external circumstances. These weren't personality traits or religious virtues. They were precision frequency tools that created a magnetic field around him so powerful that wealth had no choice but to flow toward him continuously from all directions. Think about the last time you felt genuinely abundant. Maybe you received unexpected money or experienced a moment of deep appreciation for what you already have, or felt generous enough to give something valuable away without concern for loss. In that moment, how did you feel? Probably light, expansive, open, peaceful, grateful, joyful. That feeling, that emotional state, is the frequency of abundance. And when you're in that state, you become a magnet for more experiences that generate those same feelings. The universe doesn't deliver based on what you need or deserve. It delivers based on what you're vibrating. The challenge is that most people have their emotional state backwards. They think they'll feel abundant after they get the money. They're waiting for external circumstances to change so they can finally feel the relief, joy, and freedom they desire. But that's not how manifestation works. You must generate the emotional state first, before the physical evidence appears. You must feel wealthy before you have wealth. You must experience the emotions of financial freedom before you're free. This is the fundamental principle that Solomon mastered, and that you must master to transform your financial reality. Your emotions generate measurable electromagnetic frequencies that extend beyond your physical body. When scientists measure the electromagnetic field of the heart, they find that different emotions create distinctly different patterns. Stress, fear, and anger create chaotic, incoherent patterns. Love, gratitude, and joy create smooth, coherent, powerful patterns. These patterns are not just internal experiences. They radiate outward, affecting people around you, influencing how opportunities show up, and interacting with the quantum field to select which possibilities collapse into your physical reality. Solomon spent significant time cultivating specific emotional states. His morning rituals weren't about asking for blessings or begging for divine favor. They were emotional practices designed to generate the feelings of abundance, gratitude, and connection that would then magnetize wealth throughout his day. He understood that maintaining elevated emotions required practice and discipline, that it was easy to fall into worry or fear, and that his primary responsibility was to guard his emotional state more carefully than he guarded his treasury. Let me walk you through the specific emotions that create the magnetic field of wealth and how to generate them regardless of your current circumstances. The first and most powerful emotion is gratitude. Not the superficial thank you say out of politeness, but the deep, full-body feeling of genuine appreciation that fills your chest and brings tears to your eyes. This level of gratitude is a frequency so high, so pure, that it automatically aligns you with abundance. When you're truly grateful, you're affirming that you have more than enough, and the universe responds by giving you more to be grateful for. But here's what most people don't understand about gratitude. You cannot be grateful and fearful at the same time. You cannot be appreciative and resentful simultaneously. Gratitude occupies the same neural and energetic space that negative emotions use. When you generate authentic gratitude, you're not just adding positive emotion, you're displacing negative emotion. You're shifting your entire electromagnetic field from the frequency of lack to the frequency of abundance. In an instant, Solomon practiced gratitude for everything, not just the obviously good thing. He was grateful for challenges because they strengthened him. He was grateful for competitors because they sharpened his wisdom. He was grateful for what he had, what he'd lost, what was coming and what would never come. His gratitude wasn't conditional on circumstances being perfect. His gratitude created the perfection he experienced, not the other way around. He generated the emotion first, and reality organized itself around that frequency. Start your day by finding 5 things you're genuinely grateful for, and don't move forward until you actually feel the emotion, not just think the thoughts. Maybe you're grateful for your breath, for being alive, for having consciousness to experience reality. Maybe you're grateful for a person you love, a meal you enjoyed, a comfortable place to sleep. It doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you feel it completely. Place your hand on your heart, breathe slowly, and allow yourself to experience the warmth and expansion of genuine appreciation. This practice rewires your brain, shifts your electromagnetic field, and sets your frequency for the day ahead. The second essential emotion is joy, but not the kind that depends on external circumstances. Solomon cultivated causeless joy, the ability to feel delight and happiness independent of what was happening around him. This might sound impossible when you're struggling financially, but that's exactly why it's so powerful. When you can generate joy despite challenging circumstances, you're proving to your subconscious and to the universe that your emotional state isn't controlled by external conditions. You're demonstrating mastery over your frequency, and that mastery is what creates rapid transformation. Joy is a high-frequency emotion that tells the universe, I am abundant right now. When you feel joyful, your electromagnetic field expands and becomes more powerful. People are naturally drawn to joyful individuals because their frequency feels good to be around. Opportunities appear more readily because joy creates openness rather than contraction. Solutions become visible because joy relaxes the nervous system and allows creative insight to flow. Solomon was known for his celebrations, his music, his feasts. These weren't indulgences. They were emotional practices that maintained him in the frequency of abundance, regardless of external circumstances. Practice finding moments of joy throughout your day. Feel genuine delight when you taste something delicious. Experience real pleasure when you see something beautiful. Allow yourself to laugh freely when something amuses you. Stop postponing joy until you achieve some future goal. Generate it now, in small moments, consistently, and watch how your reality begins to reorganize around that frequency. You're not being naive or ignoring problems. You're choosing to occupy the emotional frequency that has the power to actually solve those problems through attraction rather than struggle. The third crucial emotion is the feeling of already having what you desire. This is perhaps the most challenging, but also the most transformative emotional state you can cultivate. You must learn to generate the feeling of financial freedom before you're free, the feeling of abundance before it manifests, the emotional state of having achieved your goals before you achieve them. This isn't pretending or denying reality. This is understanding that the emotional state is the creative force that generates the physical reality. Solomon didn't wait until he was rich to feel wealthy. He felt wealthy as a core aspect of his identity, as his natural state of being, regardless of his bank account. This emotional certainty that he was abundant created a frequency so powerful that wealth flowed to him automatically. He wasn't hoping to become wealthy. He was being wealthy at the emotional level, and the physical manifestation was simply reality catching up to his internal state. Close your eyes right now and imagine that you just received notification that $10 million has been deposited into your account. Not someday in the future, but right now. What does that feel like in your body? Notice the sensation in your chest, the quality of your breath, the relaxation in your shoulders, the smile that naturally forms. The sense of relief and possibility that floods through you, that feeling right there, is the frequency of wealth, and you can generate it anytime, regardless of your actual bank balance, through the power of your imagination and emotional control. Practice generating this feeling multiple times throughout your day. Pause whatever you're doing, close your eyes, and create the complete emotional experience of having the wealth you desire. Feel it for at least 30 seconds to a minute, long enough that your body begins to believe it's real. Your subconscious doesn't know you're imagining it. Your electromagnetic field doesn't distinguish between actual wealth and vividly felt wealth. You're broadcasting the frequency of abundance, and the quantum field must respond by delivering experiences that match. The fourth emotion is generosity, and this is where most people's scarcity programming creates resistance. When you're struggling financially, the last thing your logical mind wants to do is give money away. But Solomon understood that generosity is the fastest way to shift from scarcity consciousness to abundance consciousness. When you give freely, without fear of loss, you're making a powerful statement to your subconscious and to the universe. I have more than enough. This emotional declaration creates a frequency that magnetizes more to you. Generosity doesn't mean giving away money you need for essentials. It means finding ways to give from your overflow, whether that's money, time, attention, or resources. The amount doesn't matter. The emotional state does. When you give with genuine joy and without attachment to return, you're occupying the frequency of abundance. You're demonstrating trust in unlimited supply. You're creating space for more to flow into your life because you're not hoarding out of fear. Solomon was legendary for his generosity. He gave gifts to visiting dignitaries, supported his people, contributed to his kingdom's prosperity freely and joyfully. He wasn't depleting his resources, he was circulating energy. He understood that wealth is a flow, not a stagnant pool. The more he gave from a place of abundance, the more flowed back to him from unexpected sources. This wasn't karma or divine reward. This was the physics of how frequency works. Give from abundance, receive more abundance. Give from fear, create more lack. Start practicing generosity in small ways that feel good but slightly stretch you. Leave a generous tip. Give a meaningful gift. Contribute to a cause you believe in. Do something kind for someone without expecting anything in return. Pay attention to how you feel when you give. If you feel fear or resentment, you're giving from lack, and it won't create the magnetic effect. But if you can find that sweet spot where giving feels abundant, joyful, and expansive, you've accessed the frequency that multiplies wealth. The fifth emotion is peace, the deep calm that comes from trusting that you're supported by something far greater than your individual efforts. Solomon's peace wasn't passivity or resignation. It was the profound knowing that he was connected to infinite source, that he didn't have to control every outcome, that the universe was organizing circumstances on his behalf. This peace allowed him to make decisions from clarity rather than desperation, to act from inspiration rather than fear, to release attachment to specific pathways while maintaining certainty about the destination. Most people cannot manifest effectively because they're trying to force outcomes through anxious effort. Their nervous system is in fight or flight mode, which is the biological state of scarcity and survival. In this state, your brain's higher functions shut down. Your electromagnetic field becomes chaotic, and you're actually repelling what you're trying to attract. Peace is the antidote. When you're peaceful, your nervous system relaxes, your heart comes into coherence, your brain waves slow to alpha or theta, states where you have access to intuitive insight and quantum manifestation. Practice finding peace in the midst of challenge. When you notice anxiety about money arising, pause and take slow, deep breaths. Place your hand on your heart and remind yourself that you're safe in this moment. Everything you need right now, you have. Tomorrow's concerns are imaginary projections. Bring yourself back to the present moment where peace actually exists. This isn't bypassing real problems. This is accessing the emotional state that has the power to solve problems through attraction and insight, rather than through struggle and force. The sixth emotion is excitement and anticipation. Solomon lived in a state of expectant abundance, always anticipating the next wave of prosperity with genuine enthusiasm. This emotional state of positive expectation is incredibly magnetic. When you expect good things to happen, when you look for evidence of abundance showing up, when you feel excited about possibilities, you're broadcasting a frequency that attracts positive circumstances. Your subconscious, always trying to prove your beliefs correct, begins to show you opportunities and resources that match your expectation. Stop expecting problems and start expecting miracles, not as naive hope, but as deliberate emotional practice. When you wake up, generate the feeling of anticipation that something wonderful is going to happen today. As you go through your day, maintain a sense of curiosity and openness to positive surprises. Before you sleep, feel excited about the abundance that's already in motion toward you. This emotional state programs your subconscious to look for and attract positive experiences rather than constantly preparing for negative ones. The seventh and perhaps most misunderstood emotion is the feeling of worthiness, not as a mental concept, but as a visceral knowing in your body that you deserve abundance, that you're valuable, that your existence alone makes you worthy of prosperity. Most people have deep, unconscious feelings of unworthiness that sabotage their manifestation efforts. They don't believe they deserve wealth, so even when they attract it, they subconsciously create situations that take it away. Solomon didn't question his worthiness, not because he was arrogant, but because he understood that worthiness is inherent, not earned. He was worthy because he existed, because he was part of the universe that is inherently abundant. He didn't have to prove his value. He simply claimed it as his birthright. This deep feeling of worthiness created a frequency that attracted wealth effortlessly because there was no internal resistance to receiving. You must do the emotional work of building genuine self-worth. Look in the mirror and practice feeling valuable, not because of what you've accomplished or what you look like, but simply because you are. Place your hand on your heart and repeat, "I am worthy of abundance," until you feel it in your body, not just think it in your mind. This isn't affirmations, this is emotional reprogramming. You're teaching your nervous system to embody the feeling of worthiness, so it becomes your default frequency. All of these emotions, gratitude, joy, having, generosity, peace, excitement, and worthiness, combine to create what I call the abundance emotional cocktail. This is the precise frequency that Solomon lived in most of the time, not 100% of the time, because he was human, but consistently enough that it became his dominant frequency. And your dominant frequency is what creates your consistent reality. If you can maintain these elevated emotions for even 51% of your day, you've tipped the scales in favor of abundance. The more time you spend in these feelings, the faster your external circumstances must shift to match. This is the real work of manifestation, not positive thinking or visualization alone, but the disciplined practice of generating and maintaining elevated emotional states regardless of current circumstances. Solomon knew that his emotional state was his most valuable asset, more important than his gold, his position, or his knowledge. He protected his emotional frequency the way a guard protects a treasure, because he understood that his frequency was creating his treasure. Your emotions are not happening to you. They're being created by you, moment by moment, through the thoughts you think and the focus you maintain. You have complete control over your emotional state, which means you have complete control over your frequency, which means you have complete control over what you're attracting. This is your power, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to claim it and use it deliberately. Welcome to emotional mastery, the final key that transforms everything. Chapter 8. Synchronicity and million-dollar coincidences. There's a moment in every manifestation journey when the invisible becomes visible, when the quantum field responds to your frequency in ways that seem magical, miraculous, even impossible. You meet exactly the right person at exactly the right time. An opportunity appears out of nowhere that perfectly matches your desires. A solution to a problem presents itself through a series of events so perfectly orchestrated that you can't explain it as mere coincidence. This is synchronicity, and it's not luck, magic, or divine intervention in the way most people think. It's the natural response of an intelligent universe to a consciousness that is aligned with the frequency of what it's seeking. Solomon experienced synchronicity so frequently that people believed he had supernatural powers. The Queen of Sheba traveled from distant lands, specifically because she had heard about his wisdom and wanted to see if the stories were true. Kings sent tributes without being asked. The finest materials for his temple arrived from foreign lands through connections he didn't orchestrate consciously. Opportunities, resources, and relationships appeared in his life with such perfect timing and precision that it seemed divinely arranged. But Solomon understood what was actually happening. He had tuned his consciousness to such a clear frequency that the universe had no choice but to deliver matching experiences through the most efficient pathways possible. Synchronicity is not random. It's not a rare gift bestowed on lucky people. It's the observable result of frequency alignment between your consciousness and the quantum field. When you're vibrating at the frequency of abundance, the field reorganizes to create pathways, connections, and circumstances that deliver abundance to you through what appear to be coincidences but are actually the precise mechanics of manifestation at work. The universe doesn't create something from nothing. It connects what already exists in ways that serve your frequency. Let me explain the science behind synchronicity, so you understand this isn't wishful thinking or spiritual fantasy. Quantum physics has proven that at the fundamental level, everything is connected through what's called quantum entanglement. Particles that have interacted remain connected regardless of distance, influencing each other instantaneously. This interconnection exists not just between particles, but throughout the entire web of reality. Everything is influencing everything else through fields of information and energy that transcend space and time, as we normally experience them. Your consciousness is not separate from this quantum field. It's an active participant in it. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs create electromagnetic frequencies that ripple through the field, interacting with all other frequencies. When your frequency is clear, coherent, and consistently focused on a specific outcome, the field responds by highlighting pathways and possibilities that match. People who can help you suddenly think of you. Opportunities that were always there suddenly become visible. Resources appear through unexpected channels. This isn't the universe creating new circumstances. It's your elevated frequency making you visible to circumstances that were invisible when you were vibrating at lower frequencies. Solomon maintained such clear frequency that synchronicity was his normal experience. He didn't chase opportunities. They came to him. He didn't search for resources. They appeared. He didn't force connections. They formed naturally. This wasn't because he was special or chosen. It was because he understood how to maintain coherent frequency without the static interference of doubt, fear, or desperation. His consciousness was like a clear radio signal broadcasting at a specific frequency, and everything that matched that frequency tuned in automatically. Think about the last time you experienced meaningful synchronicity. Maybe you thought about someone and they called. Maybe you needed information and a book fell open to exactly the right page. Maybe you wondered about something and then saw 3 signs pointing to the answer within an hour. In that moment, you were in frequency alignment with what you were seeking. Your consciousness was coherent enough. Your doubt was quiet enough. Your frequency was clear enough that the field could respond without interference. Now imagine living in that state consistently, where synchronicity isn't rare but routine, where the universe is constantly orchestrating perfect timing and connections on your behalf. The key to increasing synchronicity in your life is removing what blocks it. Synchronicity is always trying to happen, but most people create so much static with their chaotic thoughts, conflicting emotions, and limiting beliefs that the field can't deliver clear responses. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a thunderstorm. The whisper is there, but you can't perceive it through all the noise. When you quiet your mind, clarify your frequency, and maintain emotional coherence, synchronicity emerges naturally because you've removed the interference that was blocking it. Solomon practiced what we might call receptive awareness. He wasn't constantly planning, controlling, and forcing outcome. He set his intention, clarified his frequency, and then remained open and attentive to how the universe would deliver. He noticed subtle signs, followed intuitive impulses, and acted on synchronistic nudges when they appeared. He trusted that he was being guided, not by an external deity micromanaging his life, but by the intelligence of the field responding to his clear frequency. This receptive awareness is crucial, because synchronicity often appears as gentle guidance rather than obvious miracles. And if you're too busy forcing your own agenda, you'll miss the elegant pathways the universe is offering. Here's how to cultivate the state that invites synchronicity. First, you must release attachment to exactly how your desires manifest. When you're rigidly attached to one specific pathway, you close off the 1,000 other pathways the universe could use to deliver what you want. Solomon wanted wealth, but he didn't dictate that it had to come from trading with specific kingdoms or through particular channels. He remained open to however abundance wanted to flow, and it flowed through routes he never could have planned consciously. Your job is to be clear about what you want and flexible about how it arrives. Second, you must develop the practice of noticing. Most people move through life on autopilot, missing the subtle signs and synchronistic opportunities that appear constantly. A conversation overheard in a coffee shop contains exactly the information you needed. A person sitting next to you on a plane turns out to have the perfect connection for your business. An article you randomly click on provides the solution to a problem you've been struggling with. These aren't accidents. They're the universe responding to your frequency, but you must be present and attentive enough to notice them. Train yourself to recognize synchronicity when it happens. When you think of someone and they contact you, acknowledge it. When you need something and it appears through unexpected means, recognize the pattern. When you wonder about a question and the answer shows up within hours, understand that this is the field responding to your coherent frequency. The more you acknowledge synchronicity, the more your subconscious learns to look for it, and the more frequently it occurs. What you give attention to expands. Third, you must act on synchronistic opportunities when they appear. The universe delivers the connection, but you must make the call. The field creates the opening, but you must walk through it. Synchronicity is a co-creative process, not a passive waiting game. When you feel an intuitive impulse to reach out to someone, do it. When an opportunity appears that feels aligned, even if it doesn't make logical sense, follow it. When you're guided toward an action that excites you, take it. Solomon didn't just notice the synchronicities in his life. He acted on them decisively, trusting that there was intelligence in the timing and the guidance. Let me share a powerful example of synchronicity in action. Maria was a graphic designer who had been struggling to find clients who valued her work and paid her well. She had been practicing frequency alignment for several weeks, doing her visualization work, maintaining elevated emotions, and clarifying her intention for abundant, fulfilling work. One morning, she felt an inexplicable urge to go to a specific coffee shop across town, even though it was out of her way, and she had no logical reason to go there. She almost ignored the impulse, but something made her follow it. At the coffee shop, she struck up a conversation with a woman sitting next to her, who turned out to be the creative director of a major company that was looking for a designer with Maria's exact skills. They had been searching for weeks without finding the right fit. Within a week, Maria was hired for a 6-month contract that paid more than she'd made in the previous year. The logical mind would call this incredible luck, but it wasn't luck. Maria had tuned herself to the frequency of abundant, fulfilling work. The universe responded by creating a synchronistic meeting that connected her with the perfect opportunity. Her willingness to follow the intuitive impulse and engage in conversation completed the manifestation. This is how manifestation actually works in the real world. It's not sitting at home visualizing while waiting for money to appear on your doorstep. It's aligning your frequency and then following the synchronistic guidance that leads you to the opportunities, people, and resources that match your vibration. The universe works through natural channels, through people, through circumstances, through perfectly timed connections that feel miraculous, but are actually the physics of frequency at work. The fourth element of inviting synchronicity is maintaining the emotional state of positive expectation. Solomon lived in constant anticipation that good things were coming, that the universe was working in his favor, that solutions and opportunities were always approaching. This expectation wasn't blind hope. It was based on his understanding of how frequency works. He knew that his coherent consciousness was broadcasting a signal that must receive matching responses. He expected synchronicity because he understood it was inevitable, given his aligned state. When you expect synchronistic support, you're more likely to notice it when it appears. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information and decides what to bring to your conscious awareness, is programmed by your expectations. If you expect life to be hard and full of obstacles, your brain shows you evidence of difficulty. If you expect the universe to support you with perfect timing and helpful coincidences, your brain begins to notice all the ways that's already happening. Change your expectation. Change what you perceive. Change what you experience. The fifth practice is to say yes to unexplainable opportunities. Sometimes, synchronicity appears as something that doesn't make logical sense, that your rational mind can't explain or justify, but that feels right energetically. Solomon was famous for his wisdom, but his wisdom wasn't just intellectual analysis. It was the ability to perceive truth beyond logic. When an opportunity aligned with his frequency, he recognized it at an intuitive level, even if it didn't fit his plans or expectations. He said yes to synchronistic guidance, even when he couldn't see the full picture of why. You'll know when something is synchronistic guidance, rather than random distraction by how it feels. Synchronicity feels like flow, ease, excitement, rightness. It might still be challenging or require courage, but it doesn't feel forced or heavy. Fear-based action feels constrictive, desperate, anxious. Synchronistic action feels expansive, aligned, energizing, even if it's scary. Learn to distinguish between these feelings and trust the ones that indicate true alignment with your frequency. The sixth aspect of working with synchronicity is understanding that sometimes the timing isn't what you expected, but it's always perfect. You might pray for an opportunity and it doesn't show up when you think it should. Then 6 months later it appears at exactly the moment when you're truly ready for it. The universe operates with intelligence that sees the whole picture, not just your immediate desire. What looks like delay from your limited perspective is often perfect timing from the field's comprehensive view. Solomon never forced timing. He worked diligently, but he also trusted that things would manifest when all the elements were properly aligned. Sometimes this meant waiting longer than he might have chosen consciously, but the outcomes always proved that the timing was perfect. Resources appeared when he was ready to use them wisely. Opportunities came when he had the capacity to fully engage them. Connections formed when both parties were prepared to benefit. This trust in divine timing, which is really trust in the intelligence of the field, allowed him to remain in high frequency even during periods when manifestations weren't immediate. The seventh principle is that synchronicity compounds. The more you align your frequency, the more synchronicities appear. The more synchronicities you notice and act on, the more your frequency strengthens. Success builds momentum. Each manifestation proves to your subconscious that this process works, which dissolves doubt and makes your frequency even clearer. Solomon experienced exponential growth in his wealth, not through arithmetic progression, but through geometric expansion. Each synchronistic success led to 3 more opportunities, which led to 10 more connections, which created 30 new possibilities. This is the avalanche effect of aligned frequency. You're at the beginning of your own synchronistic avalanche. Right now, as you align your frequency and maintain elevated emotion, the field is already reorganizing to deliver matching experiences. There are people thinking about you who can help. There are opportunities moving toward you that will appear at perfect timing. There are resources and solutions approaching through channels you can't see yet. Your job isn't to figure out how it will all happen. Your job is to maintain your frequency and remain open to synchronistic guidance when it appears. Let me tell you about another striking example. James had been trying to grow his consulting business for years with minimal success. After learning about frequency and synchronicity, he committed to daily practices of alignment. He visualized abundant clients, felt the emotions of success, and maintained gratitude regardless of current results. One evening, he felt drawn to attend a networking event he had planned to skip because he was tired. At the event, he was randomly assigned to a table where he sat next to a CEO who was looking for exactly the consulting services James provided. That one conversation led to a contract worth more than James had made in the previous 3 years combined, which then led to referrals to 5 other companies. One synchronistic moment, created by aligned frequency and followed with action, transformed his entire business. These stories aren't exceptional. They're examples of what becomes normal when you align with synchronicity frequency. The universe is abundant with opportunities, but most people can't access them because their frequency is misaligned. When you do the work of clearing your blocks, elevating your emotions, and maintaining coherent focus, you become visible to the opportunities that were always there, but unreachable while you were vibrating at lower frequencies. The 8th and final element of synchronicity is gratitude for the invisible support. Before the evidence appears, thank the universe for already working on your behalf. Acknowledge the synchronicities that are in motion, but not yet visible. Feel grateful for the perfect timing that's being orchestrated behind the scenes. This gratitude isn't delusional. It's an advanced understanding that the field is always responding to your frequency, always organizing circumstances to match your vibration, always supporting your evolution and expansion. Solomon gave thanks constantly, not just for what he had received, but for what was still approaching. His gratitude wasn't conditional on seeing results. It was recognition that the process was always working. This level of trust and appreciation kept his frequency so clear and elevated that synchronicity was his constant companion. The universe responded to his gratitude by giving him more and more to be grateful for, creating an upward spiral of manifestation that appeared miraculous, but was actually the natural result of sustained frequency alignment. You are now learning to dance with the universe instead of fighting against it. You're discovering that you don't have to create everything through force and effort. You can align your frequency and allow the field to deliver through synchronicity, through perfect timing, through connections and opportunities that feel magical, but are actually the physics of consciousness at work. Solomon proved it's possible 3,000 years ago. Millions of people are proving it today. Now it's your turn to experience the synchronistic support that appears when your frequency is aligned with abundance. The coincidences are already moving toward you. The miracles are already in motion. All you need to do is maintain your frequency and remain open to receiving them. Chapter 9. The Inner Temple. Maintaining your elevated frequency. Here's the truth. Nobody tells you about manifesting wealth. Achieving the frequency of abundance is easier than maintaining it. You can have a breakthrough moment where everything clicks, where you feel completely aligned with prosperity, where synchronicities flow and opportunities appear. Then life happens. A bill arrives that you weren't expecting. Someone makes a comment that triggers your old scarcity programming. You wake up one morning, and the elevated feeling is gone, replaced by the familiar weight of worry and limitation. And suddenly you're back where you started, wondering if any of this actually works. Solomon understood what most people don't. Manifestation isn't about achieving a peak experience and then coasting on that momentum. Manifestation is about building an inner temple, a consciousness structure so solid and resilient that your frequency remains elevated regardless of external circumstances. He didn't just reach abundance frequency occasionally. He lived there. He built practices, environments, and protection systems that maintained his consciousness in the state of wealth, even when everything around him tried to pull him back to ordinary consciousness. This is the difference between people who manifest wealth temporarily and lose it, and people who become permanently abundant. The temporary manifestors reach the frequency through inspiration or desperation, experience some success, but haven't built the inner structure to sustain it. When challenges arise or when the initial excitement fades, they drop back to their baseline frequency of limitation. The permanent manifestors, the ones like Solomon who transform their entire financial reality and never go back, have constructed an inner temple that protects and maintains their elevated frequency through all conditions. Your inner temple is not a physical place. It's a consciousness structure made of habits, beliefs, practices, and environmental design that keeps you anchored in abundance frequency. Think of it as the foundation of a house. You can build a beautiful structure on weak foundation, and it will look impressive for a while, but the first storm will reveal the structural whackness. Or you can invest time building an unshakable foundation that can support any level of abundance you want to create and withstand any challenge that tries to knock you down. The first pillar of your inner temple is daily practice. Solomon didn't practice abundance consciousness when he felt like it or when things were going well. He had rituals that he performed every single morning and every single evening, without exception. These weren't religious obligations, they were frequency maintenance systems. Just as you brush your teeth daily to maintain dental health, regardless of whether your teeth hurt that day, you must practice frequency alignment daily to maintain prosperity consciousness, regardless of your current circumstances. Your morning practice sets your frequency for the day ahead. Before you check your phone, before you engage with the world's demands, before your conscious mind gets cluttered with 1,000 concerns, you claim your frequency. This is sacred time, non-negotiable, where you deliberately tune yourself to abundance, regardless of what happened yesterday or what challenges you might face today. Spend at least 20 minutes in meditation, visualization, or emotional alignment practices. Generate the feelings of gratitude, joy, and having. See your wealthy reality. Feel it in your body. Speak it with your voice. Claim it with your consciousness. Solomon's morning rituals were elaborate because he understood that the state you inhabit first thing in the morning sets the trajectory for your entire day. If you wake up and immediately start worrying about money, checking bad news, or rehearsing problems, you're programming your subconscious and setting your frequency for lack before the day even begins. But if you wake up and spend your first conscious moments in elevated states, you're priming your nervous system for abundance, instructing your subconscious to look for opportunities, and broadcasting a frequency that will attract matching circumstances throughout the day. Your evening practice is equally crucial because it programs your subconscious during the 8 hours you sleep. The last thoughts and feelings before sleep continue processing all night long, deepening into your subconscious programming. Solomon never went to sleep worrying about problems or replaying difficulty. His evening rituals were designed to review the day's blessings, celebrate wins no matter how small, forgive any grievances, and fall asleep in states of gratitude and peaceful expectation. This wasn't just spiritual discipline. It was sophisticated psychological technology that ensured his subconscious was being programmed for abundance, even while he slept. Spend 10 to 15 minutes before sleep, reviewing your day from the perspective of abundance. What went well? What evidence of prosperity appeared? What synchronicities occurred? What are you grateful for? Don't let your mind gravitate toward what went wrong or what's still missing. Deliberately direct your attention to anything positive, any progress, any blessing, and feel genuine appreciation for it. Then visualize tomorrow unfolding beautifully. See yourself moving through the day in elevated frequency and feel the emotions of success before it happens. Fall asleep in this state and let your subconscious continue the work while you rest. The second pillar of your inner temple is environmental design. Solomon didn't just practice abundance internally. He surrounded himself with external reminders of prosperity. His palace, his temple, his possessions, everything in his environment reinforced wealth consciousness. He understood that your environment is constantly influencing your subconscious. If you're surrounded by chaos, clutter, and decay, your consciousness absorbs those frequencies. If you're surrounded by beauty, order, and symbols of abundance, your consciousness is continuously reinforced in elevated states. Look at your living space right now with honest eyes. What is it telling your subconscious about your worth and your prosperity? Is it cluttered and chaotic, signaling confusion and lack of control? Is it sparse and depressing, reinforcing scarcity? Or is it organized, beautiful, and filled with things that make you feel abundant? You don't need expensive items to create an abundant environment. You need cleanliness, order, and intentional placement of objects that remind you of your wealthy identity. Clean your space thoroughly. Clutter is visual noise that creates mental and emotional noise. When your environment is chaotic, your consciousness cannot maintain the clarity required for high frequency. Organize your belongings. Repair things that are broken or discard them. Create beauty with whatever resources you have. Place images of your goals where you'll see them daily. Display items that represent abundance to you. Design your space to support your frequency rather than undermine it. This isn't materialistic vanity, this is consciousness engineering. Solomon's temple was precisely designed with specific colors, sounds, materials, and proportions that amplified elevated states. You can do this on any budget. Play music that elevates you. Use colors that make you feel prosperous. Arrange furniture to create flow and openness rather than constriction. Light candles or incense that signal to your nervous system that this is sacred space. Create a specific area in your home dedicated to your practices. A physical anchor for your inner temple where you go to reconnect with your elevated frequency whenever you need it. The third pillar is protective boundaries around your consciousness. Solomon was selective about who had access to him and what information entered his awareness. He understood that not every voice deserves to be heard, not every opinion matters, not every problem is yours to solve. If you allow your consciousness to be invaded by the fears, complaints, and limitations of others, you cannot maintain elevated frequency. You must become ruthless about protecting your consciousness from contamination. This means setting boundaries with people who constantly operate in scarcity consciousness. You don't need to be unkind or cut people off completely, but you must limit your exposure to those who drain your frequency. When someone starts complaining about how hard life is or how impossible success is, you can listen compassionately for a moment and then change the subject or excuse yourself. You cannot afford to marinate in other people's limiting beliefs while you're building new abundant programming. Your transformation is more important than being polite to people who want to keep you in limitation. It also means being extremely selective about media consumption. News is specifically designed to trigger fear, anger, and anxiety because those emotions keep you watching. Social media is engineered to create comparison, inadequacy, and addiction. If you're consuming hours of content that makes you feel bad about yourself or afraid about the world, you're programming your subconscious for lack, regardless of how much abundance work you're doing. Solomon didn't have television or internet, but he carefully controlled what messengers could reach him and what information he allowed into his consciousness. Limit news consumption to what you truly need to be informed, then stop. Curate your social media to remove accounts that make you feel inadequate or trigger scarcity. Follow people who inspire you, teach you, or remind you of what's possible. Read books that elevate your consciousness. Listen to podcasts that expand your thinking. Watch content that reinforces abundance. Every piece of information you consume is either supporting your new frequency or undermining it. There's no neutral content. Choose carefully what you allow into the sacred space of your awareness. The fourth pillar is the practice of catching and correcting frequency drops. No matter how committed you are, you will have moments when you drop out of abundance frequency. Something triggers your old programming. A setback activates fear. A disappointment creates doubt. This is normal and human. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't whether they experience frequency drops. It's how quickly they recognize and correct them. Solomon had developed such refined self-awareness that he could catch himself falling into lower frequencies almost immediately. The moment he noticed fear, doubt, or scarcity thoughts arising, He would interrupt them and consciously choose elevated states. He didn't judge himself for having the thoughts. He simply refused to entertain them. This constant vigilance and quick correction is what maintained his frequency at the level that created legendary wealth. Develop the habit of checking in with yourself throughout the day. Pause and ask, what frequency am I in right now? What am I feeling? What am I thinking about? If you notice you've dropped into worry, fear, or scarcity consciousness, don't waste time being frustrated about it. Simply interrupt the pattern immediately. Take 3 deep breaths. Place your hand on your heart. Generate a feeling of gratitude for anything. Visualize your wealthy reality for 30 seconds. Speak an abundance affirmation out loud. Return to elevated frequency as quickly as possible. The faster you can catch frequency drops and correct them, the less time you spend broadcasting lack, and the more consistently you maintain the signal of abundance. Think of it like a thermostat. When the temperature drops below your setting, the heat kicks in automatically to restore it. Your inner temple needs a frequency thermostat, an automatic system that detects drops and activates correction practices immediately. This becomes easier with practice until frequency maintenance becomes as natural as breathing. The 5th pillar is the practice of celebrating evidence. Most people are so focused on what's still missing that they completely overlook the evidence that their frequency is working. Small manifestations appear, and they dismiss them as coincidence. Synchronicities occur, and they don't acknowledge them. Progress happens, and they're already focused on the next goal. This pattern tells your subconscious that manifestation doesn't work, which weakens your frequency and slows your result. Solomon celebrated everything. Every gift received, every successful negotiation, every peaceful day, every blessing, large or small, was acknowledged and appreciated. This celebration wasn't just gratitude. It was evidence collection. He was training his subconscious to recognize that the frequency was working, that abundance was flowing, that the universe was responding. This created a positive feedback loop where his subconscious looked for more evidence, found it, which strengthened his belief, which elevated his frequency, which created more to celebrate. Start a daily evidence journal where you write down every piece of evidence that your frequency is working. Did someone pay you back money you'd forgotten about? Evidence. Did you find $1 on the ground? Evidence. Did you receive a compliment, an opportunity, an unexpected discount? All evidence. Write it down. Feel genuine appreciation for it, and let your subconscious understand that manifestation is working. Abundance is flowing, and your frequency is attracting results. The size of the manifestation doesn't matter during this building phase. What matters is training your awareness to recognize and celebrate evidence. The 6th pillar is the practice of energetic clearing. Throughout your day, you encounter people, places, and situations that can leave energetic residue in your field. Someone's anger, the stress of a difficult meeting, the fear in a news report, all of these lower frequencies can stick to your electromagnetic field like dust and cloud your signal. Solomon had regular purification rituals not because he was superstitious, but because he understood the need to clear his energetic field regularly. Develop a simple clearing practice that you perform daily or whenever you feel energetically heavy. This can be as simple as imagining white light flowing through your body and washing away any heavy or stuck energy. Stand under running water in the shower and consciously release anything that doesn't belong to you. Burn sage or Palo Santo to clear your space. Spend time in nature, allowing the earth to ground and reset your field. Use sound like singing bowls or tuning forks to break up stagnant energy. The specific method matters less than the intention and consistency of clearing your field. The 7th pillar is accountability and measurement. Solomon had advisors who helped him track his kingdom's prosperity and his personal goals. He measured progress, celebrated wins, and adjusted strategies based on evidence. You need some form of accountability, whether it's a journal, a trusted friend, or a coach, that helps you stay committed to your practices and track your progress. What gets measured gets managed. What gets acknowledged gets amplified. Create a simple tracking system for your abundance practices. Did you do your morning routine today? Check. Evening practice? Check. Frequency corrections when you notice drops? Check. Evidence collected? Check. This isn't about perfection or rigid discipline. It's about gentle accountability that keeps you moving forward. On weeks when you're consistent with your practices, you'll notice more manifestations. On weeks when you skip practices, things slow down. The correlation between practice and results will become undeniable, which strengthens your commitment and your belief. The eighth and final pillar is self-compassion during the building process. You're not going to be perfect. You'll have days when you forget your practices, when you stay in low frequency too long, when you react from fear instead of responding from abundance. Solomon was a master, but he was also human. He had moments of doubt, difficulty, and challenge. The difference is that he didn't let temporary setbacks become permanent identity. He didn't judge himself harshly for being imperfect. He simply returned to his practices and rebuilt his frequency with compassion and determination. Be patient with yourself as you build your inner temple. This is a lifetime practice, not a sprint to a finish line. Some days you'll feel strong and clear. Other days you'll struggle. Both are part of the process. What matters is that you keep coming back to the practices, that you rebuild your frequency after every drop, that you protect your consciousness consistently even when it's inconvenient. Over time, the temple gets stronger. The practices become easy. The frequency becomes more stable, and the manifestations accelerate. You're not just trying to manifest wealth. You're becoming a permanently abundant being. You're building an inner structure that can sustain unlimited prosperity without collapsing under its weight or sabotaging itself back to limitation. Solomon built his inner temple over years of dedicated practice, and it supported wealth beyond measure for his entire lifetime. You're building yours now, day by day, practice by practice, choice by choice. This inner temple is your true treasure, more valuable than any external wealth because it's the source from which all external wealth flows. Protect it, strengthen it, maintain it, and it will generate abundance for the rest of your life. Chapter 10. Living as a Channel of Infinite Abundance. There comes a moment in every transformation journey when everything inverts, when you stop trying to get abundance and start allowing abundance to flow through you. This is the ultimate secret Solomon discovered, the final revelation that separated him from everyone else who pursued wealth. He realized that he was not the creator of his prosperity. He was the channel through which universal abundance expressed itself. He stopped chasing, stopped forcing, stopped believing that he had to make wealth happen through his individual effort. Instead, he opened himself completely to become a conduit for the infinite prosperity that exists in the quantum field, always flowing, always available, seeking open channels through which to manifest in physical form. This understanding changes everything because it removes the burden of creation from your shoulders. You're not responsible for figuring out how to manifest wealth from nothing. You're not supposed to control every variable or force every outcome. Your only job is to maintain a clear channel, to keep your frequency aligned, to stay open and receptive, and to allow the infinite intelligence of the universe to flow through you in whatever forms serve your highest good and the highest good of all. Solomon became wealthy beyond measure, not because he worked harder than everyone else, but because he became a clearer channel than anyone else, allowing prosperity to pour through him in unprecedented volume. Think about a river. The river doesn't create water, it channels water from source to sea. If the river channel is clear and open, water flows powerfully and abundantly. If the channel is blocked with debris, dams, or resistance, the flow is restricted or stopped entirely. You are like that river. Universal abundance is the water, always flowing from infinite source. Your consciousness is the channel. When you clear the blocks, align your frequency, and open yourself completely, abundance flows through you naturally, easily, powerfully. When you create resistance through fear, doubt, or controlling behavior, you restrict the flow and experience lack, despite the fact that infinite abundance is always available. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth, while others struggle their entire lives. It's not about intelligence, education, or even effort. It's about how clear a channel they've become. The struggling person is working hard, but their channel is clogged with limiting beliefs, scarcity programming, and resistance to receiving. The abundant person has cleared their channel and remains open, allowing wealth to flow through them with minimal effort. Solomon understood this principle completely and spent his life maintaining the clearest possible channel for universal abundance to express through his experience. The first shift required to become a channel is releasing the illusion of separation. You've been taught that you're an isolated individual in a competitive universe, fighting for limited resources against other isolated individuals. This belief creates a consciousness of separation that blocks the flow of abundance. The truth is that you're not separate from the universe, you're an expression of it. You're not disconnected from infinite source, you're made of it. You're not competing for scarce resources, you're connected to unlimited supply. When you truly grasp this at an experiential level, not just intellectually, your entire relationship with wealth transforms. Solomon knew he was connected to the same creative force that generated stars, sustained nature, and orchestrated life itself. He didn't see himself as separate from that force, begging for scraps. He saw himself as an outlet through which that force expressed abundance in physical form. This wasn't arrogance, it was accurate understanding of the nature of consciousness and reality. You are not outside the universe looking in. You are the universe experiencing itself through this particular focal point of awareness. When you own this truth, you stop trying to get abundance from out there and start allowing it to flow from within. The second shift is moving from doing to being. Most people approach wealth from a paradigm of doing. They believe they must do more, work harder, learn more strategies, take more action to create wealth. And while inspired action is important, it's not the primary creative force. Your being is the primary creative force. Who you are at the level of frequency, consciousness, and identity creates what you attract and experience. Solomon took action, but his actions flowed from his being, from his identity as an abundant channel. He didn't work to become wealthy. He worked as a wealthy being, and his being created the reality that matched it. This shift from doing to being means you stop measuring your worth by your productivity. You stop believing that your value comes from your output. You start understanding that your value is inherent, that you're worthy simply because you exist as an expression of source consciousness, and that abundance is your birthright, not because you earned it, but because you are it. When you truly embody this, you stop chasing wealth desperately and start magnetizing it naturally through the frequency of your being. The third shift is embracing the paradox of attachment and detachment. You must be clear about what you want. You must hold the vision. You must feel the desire. But simultaneously, you must release attachment to exactly how and when it manifests. This paradox confuses most people, but Solomon mastered it perfectly. He was intensely focused on prosperity while being completely relaxed about the specific forms it took and the timeline of its arrival. He trusted that by maintaining clear frequency and remaining an open channel, the universe would deliver abundance in whatever ways served the highest good. Attachment creates desperation, which is a frequency of lack that repels abundance. Detachment without desire creates apathy, which provides no direction for the flow. The balance is passionate preference combined with peaceful trust. You're clear about wanting wealth, excited about the possibilities, committed to maintaining your frequency, and simultaneously trusting that the universe knows the perfect timing, the ideal pathways, and the best forms for your abundance to take. You're doing your part by staying in alignment, and you're allowing the universe to do its part by orchestrating circumstances beyond your ability to control or perceive. The fourth shift is understanding that receiving is as important as asking. Many people are good at desiring, visualizing, and asking for abundance. But when opportunities appear, when money flows, when help is offered, they resist receiving. They feel unworthy, guilty, or afraid that receiving creates debt or obligation. This resistance to receiving is like having a reservoir of water above you, but keeping your cup turned upside down. The abundance is there, ready to flow, but you're blocking it with your inability to receive. Solomon was a masterful receiver. When the Queen of Sheba brought gifts, he received them graciously and fully. When opportunities appeared, he embraced them. When resources flowed toward him, he opened completely to allow them in. He understood that receiving is not passive taking. It's active allowing. It's opening your channel wide, saying yes to the universe's offerings, and trusting that when you receive fully, you create space for even more to flow. Receiving is the completion of the manifestation circuit. You set the intention, align your frequency, the universe responds with offerings, and you receive them fully. This completes the cycle and allows the next cycle to begin. Practice receiving in small ways to build this capacity. When someone compliments you, receive it fully instead of deflecting. When someone offers help, accept it graciously instead of insisting you can do it alone. When unexpected money comes, receive it with joy and gratitude instead of suspicion or guilt. You're training your nervous system to be comfortable with receiving, expanding your capacity to channel larger flows of abundance. The more you can receive, the more the universe can give, because you're proving yourself a clear, open channel that won't block or restrict the flow. The fifth shift is embracing your role as a distributor, not just an accumulator. Solomon didn't hoard his wealth. He circulated it. He built temples, supported his people, gave gifts to visitors, invested in his kingdom's prosperity. He understood that being a channel means allowing abundance to flow through you, not getting trapped in you. When you accumulate and hoard out of fear that there's not enough, you block the flow. When you circulate generously, trusting in unlimited supply, you keep your channel clear and the flow accelerates. This doesn't mean giving away money you need for essentials or being careless with resources. It means finding the balance where you're both building wealth and circulating wealth. You're saving and investing while also giving and contributing. You're responsible with money while also generous with money. This circulation keeps energy moving, prevents stagnation, and signals to your subconscious and the universe that you operate from abundance consciousness rather than scarcity consciousness. The wealthiest people understand this principle. They become wealthy not by clutching every dollar, but by creating value for others and allowing money to flow freely through their lives. The sixth shift is recognizing that challenges and obstacles are not evidence that your frequency isn't working. They're opportunities to deepen your mastery. Solomon faced challenges throughout his reign, but he didn't interpret difficulties as signs that he was off track or that abundance had stopped flowing. He saw challenges as invitations to strengthen his frequency, to clarify his channel, to demonstrate his trust in infinite supply, even when circumstances looked concerning. Every obstacle he overcame made him a clearer, stronger channel for even greater abundance. When you face financial challenges now, instead of panicking and reverting to scarcity consciousness, see them as tests of your new identity. Can you maintain abundance frequency even when the bank account is low? Can you trust in universal supply even when the bill is due? Can you remain grateful and peaceful even when circumstances are uncomfortable? Every time you pass these tests by maintaining your frequency despite appearances, you prove to your subconscious that you've truly transformed. You demonstrate that you're not just playing with these concepts in comfortable times, you're embodying them as your permanent reality. This deepens the transformation and accelerates your manifestations. The seventh shift is understanding that your wealth is meant to serve something beyond yourself. Solomon's wealth wasn't just for personal pleasure or ego satisfaction. It served his kingdom. It built sacred structures. It contributed to collective prosperity. It demonstrated what was possible when consciousness aligns with infinite abundance. When your wealth has purpose beyond accumulation, when it's connected to contribution and service, it flows more powerfully because you become a channel for abundance that serves life itself, not just your individual desires. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy luxury or personal pleasure. Solomon lived in tremendous beauty and enjoyed his prosperity fully, but his wealth was also in service to something larger. When you connect your financial goals to contribution, when you imagine how you'll use wealth to help others, create beauty, solve problems, or make life better for people beyond yourself, you align with the universe's fundamental nature, which is generative, creative, and life-enhancing. This alignment opens your channel wider because you're not just receiving for yourself, you're receiving on behalf of the greater good. The eighth shift is accepting that you're being transformed by this process, not just your circumstances. Solomon didn't become wealthy and remain the same person. His wealth transformed him, deepened his wisdom, expanded his consciousness, and evolved his character. You're not just manifesting money, you're becoming someone new, someone who trusts instead of fears, someone who gives instead of hoards, someone who sees abundance everywhere instead of scarcity, someone who knows themselves as a channel of infinite supply instead of a limited individual struggling for survival. This transformation is the real treasure. The money is wonderful, the opportunities are exciting, the freedom is valuable, but the person you become in the process of aligning with abundance frequency is priceless. You're shedding old identities, releasing limiting beliefs, healing ancient wounds, and stepping into your power as a conscious creator connected to infinite source. This is what Solomon's frequency really offers, not just wealth, but wholeness, not just abundance, but awakening, not just financial freedom, but spiritual evolution. As you continue practicing everything you've learned in these chapters, you'll notice that you're not the same person who started reading. You've been changed by exposure to these frequencies, By practicing these principles, by opening to these possibilities, your consciousness is expanding, your frequency is rising, your reality is shifting. Trust this process. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be. Trust that the universe is responding to your aligned frequency, even when you can't see evidence yet. Trust that you're becoming a clearer channel every day. The final shift is recognizing that this journey never ends. It only deepens. Solomon didn't reach a point where he mastered frequency and then stopped practicing. He continued refining, deepening, and expanding his capacity as a channel throughout his life. As your wealth grows, you'll be invited into new levels of consciousness. As your abundance expands, you'll face new challenges that require deeper trust. As you become a clearer channel, you'll be called to allow even greater flows of prosperity to move through your life. This is not a destination to reach. It's a path to walk for as long as you now have everything Solomon had: the knowledge of how frequency creates reality, the understanding of how consciousness magnetizes abundance, the practices that align you with infinite supply, the awareness that you're not a separate individual struggling for scraps, but a channel through which universal abundance expresses itself in physical form. You have the same quantum field available to you that Solomon accessed. You have the same laws of physics operating in your life. You have the same infinite source energy flowing through you. The only difference between where you are now and where Solomon was is the clarity of your channel and the consistency of your practice. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can revert to old patterns of scarcity consciousness, worrying about money, focusing on lack, operating from fear. Or you can remember who you really are, a channel of infinite abundance, a frequency match for unlimited prosperity, a conscious creator aligned with universal supply. Choose consciously. Choose deliberately. Choose to maintain your frequency regardless of appearances. Choose to trust in the invisible flow, even when the visible evidence hasn't caught up yet. Choose to be the channel Solomon was, clear, open, and aligned with the fundamental abundance of the universe itself. Your wealth is not coming to you from outside yourself. It's flowing through you from within yourself. You're not waiting for the universe to decide you're worthy. You're claiming your worthiness and allowing the universe to confirm what you've declared. You're not hoping for better circumstances. You're becoming the frequency that creates better circumstances automatically. You're not trying to manifest abundance. You're recognizing that you are abundance taking physical form. This is Solomon's final secret, the culmination of everything you've learned. You are not separate from the wealth you seek. You are the wealth. You are the abundance. You are the prosperity, not metaphorically, but literally at the level of consciousness and energy. When you embody this truth completely, when you stop seeking and start being, when you release trying and start allowing, when you quit chasing and start channeling, everything changes. The struggle ends, the flow begins. The abundance that was always available suddenly becomes visible, accessible, and experienceable in your physical reality. You were born to be abundant. Your natural state is prosperity. Your true identity is unlimited. Anything less than this is not reality. It's programming that can be changed, and you've been changing it, chapter by chapter, practice by practice, choice by choice. You're not who you were when you started this journey. You're becoming who you were always meant to be, a clear, open, powerful channel through which the infinite abundance of the universe flows into physical form, creating wealth, prosperity, and freedom, not through struggle, but through alignment, not through force, but through frequency, not through taking, but through allowing. Solomon proved it's possible. You're now proving it for yourself. Welcome to your new frequency. Welcome to your new identity. Welcome to your new reality as a living channel of infinite abundance. The flow has already begun. The manifestations are already in motion. The wealth is already approaching. Your only job now is to remain open, stay aligned, trust completely, and allow the universe to deliver everything you've claimed through the power of your transformed consciousness. This is your inheritance. This is your birthright. This is your frequency. This is Solomon's gift to you, preserved through millennia, available in this moment, activated by your willingness to become what you were always meant to be. Abundance itself, expressing through human form.